Hi, everyone. Amazing. Thanks for tuning in. So, people are going to flood in over the next few minutes. So, I'm just going to say hi. Where is everyone tuning in from? Whereabouts in the world? I always love the idea that we have people from all over the world tuning in. There you go. Truly global audience. So, it should be a really fun session today. We're going to be working through what has changed in the world of search. Like, how can you as a business and how can you as a founder think about optimizing your business for the future? Wow, we really do have people from everywhere. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. God, there's a lot of people on this call. You're very welcome. My team and I have been working very hard on putting together something that is both theory based, so what we can observe via the data and what we can observe by studying, but also practical, like what are the things that we've done that have impacted change. And then the guest speakers are incredible and should be able to show some, well, share some incredible activities that they've been doing with their own brand, but also with clients. And so it should be an incredible session. And so before I get into things, before I share my screen with you and go through my opening presentation, I just want to set a few administrative things. First and foremost, we are recording this session. And so if you want to be sent the session afterwards, we will send it as a follow-up to everyone that is subscribed to this session. So that'll be very useful for you to study afterwards and really double click on what some of the speakers are saying and some of the points that we bring up today and how you can optimize your business. So everything will be recorded. We are giving out prizes live on the call. And so throughout the session, we will be giving out a few different prizes and we will explain them throughout the call. And the last thing is the call and the chat and everything here is aimed at helping businesses, helping founders, helping marketing teams, helping search teams to improve what they're doing. And so at a fundamental level, I don't want people spamming the chat with sales or with maybe like their link to their business or whatever. This is meant to be an educational experience for everyone on the call. And so we're trying to provide as much value as we possibly can. And so as a reminder, we are recording the session and try not to spam the chat with links and so forth. And so thank you very much for joining today. My team and I are honored that you would spend your afternoon with us, and we have some incredible speakers for you this afternoon. And we will be sending the recording out to everyone afterwards, which is going to be completely free. So we'll never charge for anything like that. And to those that asked in the chat, I'm actually in Berlin today because I'm giving a presentation this evening at another event on AI search and how to drive your business. And so I'm actually hosting our session from Berlin. So founder life is very busy. So let's get into it. I'm going to walk you through my viewpoint and what Searchable are focused on today within AI search and how you can use that for your business. So let's get into it. Yes. So everyone should be able to see my screen. So today we are incredibly lucky because we get to attack AI search from a very theoretical and practical standpoint. We're going to talk about the biggest changes between what digital marketing and SEO has been for years and years and years. I've worked in search now for about 15 years. I first started helping businesses optimize their websites when I was 20 years old. I'm now 35 years old. And so through the different medium of multiple different businesses, I've been in this space for a long time and I've seen so much change. And yet nothing really comes close to what we're experiencing right now. I didn't want to just tell you that though. I wanted to bring to you some incredible speakers who have really, truly special knowledge on AI search and also practically how they're thinking about it. So Dan is SVP at Zapier, which is one of the leading B2B companies, which everyone will know, and they have had incredible success with regards to driving traffic from AI. And so I'm going to be introducing Dan after my talk, and we're going to talk about how they as a business are optimizing what they've done that's been successful, maybe what they're focused on in the future, which you as businesses and as marketeers can take away from that session. Zapier, obviously a leading brand. And then to Ethan, who CEO of Graphite, his agency, one of the most renowned voices now in AI search, and will bring to us, how to think about AEO, GEO in 2026. He'll hopefully be sharing some of his data that they've put together and some of their insights that they as a business are seeing from working with lots of different brands. And so that's the lineup for today. And then I will finish the day with a Q&A session where we can go as deep as you want on any business context as to how to do digital marketing. Like I say, I've worked brand side and agency side at lots of my different businesses over the years. And so I have a very good insight on how you can practically implement search. So my background is 20 years old. I started Verb Brands, which became a leading agency in SEO and PPC, worked with global brands for 10 years, built a large agency, and the vast majority of my time was spent in helping brands to understand search, paid search, and then content. So how to use the levers at your disposal to drive your business forward. I then exited that business in 2021 and went on to build a company called Lottie with my brother, which is now a big health tech company where search and nowadays AI search has become such an important part of that business because it's about helping people find care. I built the Creator Accelerator, which helps entrepreneurs build their businesses through personal brand. And then I went to work at Lovable. And working at Lovable was mainly focused on their growth. So it was like how to do creator campaigns, how to do education programs, how to work on customer acquisition. And then about 6 months ago, had the idea for Searchable. And my viewpoint was, at the time, I thought that a lot of the existing companies in the space were just viewing it as an analytics problem, whereas I view it much more as how do we use AI to drive results? So how do we use AI to agentically help us come up with our roadmaps, come up with our opportunities, and as a result, come up with the actions and the activities that we need to drive towards as a business. And so we ended up launching the business 65 days ago. It has been probably the craziest period of my life as a founder. We've been incredibly lucky that we've grown to $85,000 a month in recurring revenue through our customers, which is hundreds of different brands across the world. And it has been an amazing experience. And the insight we have, hopefully, I get to share with you today. And so what are you going to learn in the next 3 hours? What are you going to take away from this session? So number one is that search is no longer about rankings. Historically, as marketers, we optimize towards 5 to 10 blue links on a Google page. And that was the set way, search marketing worked for years and years and years to come. The difference now is quite a stark reality. And even if you believe that Google will eventually win this race to be dominant within AI search, the nature of how we search has changed. So the nature of every single search now is conversational. Every single search is a lot more directional, and there are no longer 10 opportunities given within a chat. And so that is a very, very different experience to what we have had previously with the business. And so I think the other thing to talk about is how AI search works in practice. So like, what are the specific actions and specific things that our speakers and our company have done that have resulted in such a significant outcome. And then 3 will be a playbook that you can take away, that you can study alongside this recording that's going to drive your business forward in 2026. So we are giving away a lot of prizes on today's session. And so just to give you an idea of what those prizes are. So we run something called the AI Search Accelerator, which is where we train established brands in how to do AI search. We aren't an agency, we don't have services, we just provide the technology, but we also teach people how to use our tool, but also how to think about AI search more strategically. So we're giving away 5 spots for that, 5 strategy sessions with my team and I, 25 visibility reports, and then templates that you can take away. And we are preparing for every single person on this call. All of this will be given the AI search visibility report. And so we're trying to put together an objective view of how AI search is working right now. And you can use that data every single day when you think about your business and the optimizations that you're making presently. So the search landscape is evolving. The nature of how people are searching has changed so significantly over the last few years, and the adoption rate is at a point now where everyone is starting to notice. However, those of us that have worked in the space for a long time will know that over the last few years, we have seen the nature of how people expect their research of products and they expect their research of services to go. AI surfaces different sites for answers and citations, not necessarily like your competitors. And so in SEO, we've always talked about considering your SERP competitors rather than just your direct competitors. So really thinking about what is the optimizations you can make for search. And so you have to think long and hard here about how do you compete for certain conversations? What are the optimizations that you have to make to show up in ChatGPT, to show up in Perplexity, and so forth? So user behavior is shifting towards conversational search, which is a trend we will see more and more and more as time goes on. And like I said at the start, I'm not someone that will ever say, nor do I believe that SEO is dead. I think this is the new adaptation of SEO. And I think that those who have very good traditional search have performed incredibly well in AI search. And I think that what is worth noting is that consumer behavior dictates product, right? So consumer behavior now is that our expectation as the consumer is that if I'm searching for a pair of headphones, I'm going to ask my ChatGPT that knows a little bit about me and therefore will surface me a product that suits me. And so I'm not going to go and open 10 tabs anymore. That's just not how I shop anymore. And with ChatGPT shopping recently, they're now doing the research for you. And so just think that whether you agree or not, the user behavior has shifted so much over the last 3 or 4 years. There's like 800 million weekly users on ChatGPT. This isn't something that is happening. It's happened and it's going to continue to compound. And I'm not talking about ChatGPT winning here. I'm just talking about the nature that as a business, your consumers expect that their discovery of your product and your services is conversational. And so the other thing that I think is really important to note is that the traditional metrics that we have all used aren't telling a complete story right now. And I think that comes down to attribution more than anything. And so I think I want to point to something here that I think is a very typical journey that is happening right now for businesses, which is people will be using ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, etc., to research a product, and they will come up with a short list of products, and they will find a product or a brand that they like, and then that conversational experience and that research phase might have ended, and then they might go and Google the brand name or the specific product and do that. And so you have this kind of dual approach to shopping. And that's, again, that's not my opinion. That's based on research that people are using GPT and others to do research and then following through. And so from an attribution point of view, what that means very importantly is that the last click and the last touch point attribution is happening still on traditional channels. And I think that is a very important thing, that if you're in a marketing team or an SEO team and you're thinking to yourself, I really want to invest more in AI search. I want to invest more in, creating better content or optimizations or whatever it might be. You might be able to prove it better with better attribution. And this is an attribution problem right now. And so it's worth bearing in mind that is a consumer behavior that is happening today. So the numbers really do tell a story here, which is that search behavior in general has been changing for a long time. And so 58.5% of US searches and 59.7% of European searches are ending without a click. And so the traffic that, for the last 10 years, we've obviously relied on coming from isn't coming in the same way that it was before. And then another thing worth bearing in mind is that AI search platforms at scale is happening now. 800 weekly active users on ChatGPT, and then 780 million queries a month for Perplexity is actually staggering numbers when you think about that in the perspective of other businesses and in the perspective of, for example, social platforms. Like 800 million weekly users is bigger than Twitter, for example, which has been around for a very, very long time and is a cultural phenomenon, you know? And so the thing to think about as a business right now is that this adoption has happened in its earliest part of the curve, faster than it ever has before. If we think about similar things that have happened before, you might think of like the advent of the iPhone, the advent of the App Store, the advent of the internet. Like the adoption curve of those things was much, much, much lower than the adoption of AI. And it means that at the moment you have, 40% of Americans using AI chatbots monthly, and 20% are heavy users who use it 10 times a month. So that trend is only going to continue to increase as people rely more and more and more on that conversational experience rather than the historical experience of having a Google search experience. And so I thought this was worth pointing to, which is that companies that have moved fast on AI search already have experienced massive benefit. And so here are a couple of posts that I pulled together, and obviously the Zapier is Dan who's speaking today. But Webflow saying that they 2x their signups from LLMs, like 2x their signups is a remarkable statement to make, and that discovery is coming straight from AI search. Zapier saying 40% of Zapier's visitors now discovering through LLMs, and so on and so forth. Vercel and Tally both having amazing experiences as well. So in your organizations, in your businesses, when you go back to budget holders, or maybe you're the budget holder, and you think, how does this work in practice? Like, is this something that I should be investing in, Q3, Q4? Truthfully, this is something that you should be investing in today. And I'm not saying that it's a massive investment today, but I definitely think it's an investment in terms of studying if your consumer, for example, is the sort of consumer that spends their time and preferences ChatGPT. Because if they do, then that is definitely directionally where you should spend your time, and importantly, spend your budget. And so I talked about this a little bit earlier, but let's use the example of, let's say you run a project management business and you ask ChatGPT about project management. The answer will give you maybe 5 recommended businesses, say yours included within those 5. And a week later, you then know that you want to procure project management. You then go to Google, you search the thing that you found because you'd already decided on it. Now, that business, the project management business, won't know that the win was actually achieved through AI search, through the conversation. And so when they talk about increasing their budget, when they talk about optimizing for the year ahead, this becomes a problem for them because they're going to be optimizing the wrong thing. And so for the first time in a long time, when it comes to marketing, and like I said, I've been advising brands for 15 years now, is that we have to put a layer of human intelligence on top of the raw data here, because the raw data won't get you there. If you're being discovered primarily through this channel and it's not being counted into attribution, you're going to invest your money in the wrong way. And so that's a very important thing to focus on this year coming. So I got a lot of questions in advance of this saying, which platform should I optimize towards? Which I think is actually a good question. And I think that this gives you a breakdown. This is from Graphite's data, and hopefully Ethan will go into this in more detail, give us a bit more flavor, a bit more focus on where you should spend your time. But what gets cited differs by the platforms. And so you can see that 89% of citations come from different domains depending on the platform. So there's actually a significant difference between some of the platforms. And so again, this is where you as the marketeer or as the founder, this is where you think to yourself, where is my customer? What is my customer using? Are they typically a Perplexity user? Are they a hybrid user? Are they using multiple platforms? Or are they a ChatGPT user? And that, again, can be done by research through questionnaires. And if you think about this example specifically, if your consumer was on predominantly on Perplexity and you'd misread the situation and you were optimizing predominantly towards ChatGPT and you were, working on increasing your mentions and your citations and focusing on sources that resulted in ChatGPT, you would have a significant problem in the fact that you're investing a lot of money and you wouldn't be seeing the outcome you want because you have misread where your consumer is. And so I think that's a very important point to consider, and hopefully Ethan can double click on that. So from rankings to recommendations. So traditionally, all of us focused on specific keywords. I mean, I have sat in boardrooms for like 15 years talking about how the business can increase in its keyword position across all the businesses I've worked with for my entire career. And so I think that we know that very well. That's like a habit and an action we know very well. And you would measure your success via whether you are on page 1, whether you're in 1 to 10, or if you are probably a bit more sophisticated, whether you are 1 to 5, and how you increase yourself. And if you are towards the top of Google, how you make yourself as defensible as possible through content and so forth. And then success was very specifically, obsessively as marketers, success became about attribution. Was it first touch, last touch? Was it hybrid? Whatever it might be. And so I think AI search, the context that you should be thinking about it is you want to be getting mentioned in the answer, in the recommendation within the conversation. And, it might give a multiple different answers to the outcome. And then ultimately, you do want to get your brand and you do want to get your website to be linked. And so the better that you get, the more content that you have that is directional, that's giving the crawlers the answer it needs in a nuanced way, the more likely you are to be mentioned, the more likely you are to be cited. And so when we're thinking about measuring the success of AI search as opposed to traditional search, what we've built for customers and is becoming the norm is how to track your mentions, the positions of your mentions over time. And so you can see how you're performing, how you're improving over time, and then also how to track your citations and your sources over time, which is a really useful metric to see in which examples of conversations you're being mentioned, you're being cited, because that gives you a huge amount of useful information to then go about making further optimizations. And what we actually shipped last week, which again, I think is a very useful tool moving forwards, is how to aggregate all of the information from the sources and the mentions and the citations of your competitors, and then how you can look at the content your competitors are using to appear for certain prompts and recommendations, which for me has been the most fascinating thing. So I am very easily now able to say, study and analyze the sources that drive mentions and citations from my core competitors and tell me the opportunity and the action and the content that I need to go and create to compete for those certain prompts and conversations, which at a fundamental level, ladies and gentlemen, is a huge part of what we're doing here. We're trying to make ourselves, our brands, be the most relevant answer, most relevant and nuanced answer to the individual question that the user has. And so for me, the last few weeks has been working with our bigger clients on how do they study which content and for what reasons their competitors are beating them in certain topics and certain prompts and so forth, which has been a fascinating experience because it's a bit like pulling the shroud off something. It's a bit like showing, the map forwards. And so we've had a lot of fun building it. Our clients have had a lot of fun using it. And obviously you don't need to use Searchable necessarily for that. But I would say that it's a very good practice to think about, is to study the content and the reasons why your competitors are outperforming you. And as a result, how you can reverse engineer your own high quality content to take that position. And so I wanted to show you what a lot of businesses are dealing with right now, which is, let's say that we're searching for the best payroll software. It's an incredibly boring example, I know, but I thought it was a good one. So let's say that we're searching for the best payroll software out there. On the left is my current Google experience. And like I say, I am definitely not saying that I think that Google is dead, SEO dead, or anything. I actually think that, kind of like, watch this space. It's going to be incredible from Google, and I'm so excited. But right now, this is often what you're seeing in the exact side-by-side comparison. And so you have ads at the top and then you have organic. And so the experience is a little bit disjointed. It's one that we all got used to, but it is a little bit disjointed. And you spend 10 to 15 minutes researching something or anything of note, really. Whereas on the right-hand side, especially if you're someone that uses the tools a lot, they have obviously a lot of context on you. And as a result, the delivery of the recommendations feels much more personal, and your time to answer is much lower right now. And so again, I think that I'm not saying don't optimize for search. In fact, what I am saying is that this, traditional SEO and the development of Google and AI search has to be a priority in 2026 and beyond. And I probably will talk about this a little bit more, if I'm in the position where I'm running any business right now, I'm thinking to myself that there is a first mover advantage within my sector. And a lot of the big businesses that I work with every single day now are realizing the same thing, which is that obviously a lot of people have moved fast on the optimization of ChatGPT and other tools, but most big businesses move quite slowly. And so if you're in a certain sector that is a slightly slower sector, if you're the one over the next 6 months that creates the right content, that feeds the chatbots, that gives them the context to give the right answer, you will dominate within your space, whatever your space may be. And so like I'm working with everyone from like cycling brands to flower brands to dentist brands, and I'm seeing these big players really focus heavily on providing the right answer to the questions that their consumers are looking for, and the results being quite dramatic. So what should you be measuring moving forwards within search? So our space, as in the AI agentic space, AI tooling space, AI SEO, visibility has sort of become a very important metric. Whereas personally, I think that visibility is only useful if you set up your tracking in the right way. I have been in countless boards recently. I've been in countless meetings recently with clients where, and people leaving other tools to come to us, where they have 25 brand prompts and then 25 other prompts, and their visibility score is amazing, and they're going, yes, we're doing incredibly well, we're beating Coca-Cola. And I sort of think to myself, it's a little bit like marking your own homework. And so the absolute key thing to do at the start, which is why we offer the training to our customers, is making sure that what you're targeting is correct, and making sure that you can remove brand from that visibility equation, and that you can zero in on certain topics, and that you can focus on certain conversations. Because what you really should be tracking over time is a broad set of brand and non-branded queries that your customers are searching. And then over time, you should track how often you're getting mentioned and in what position, how often you're getting cited and what position and how regularly. And those 2 or 3 things are going to be very directional to how much traffic and customers and revenue you're actually driving, and what the sentiment is that people have of your business. So we're actually releasing a completely new, first time it's been built, brand perception tool, which is going to be very useful to direct businesses towards how they can improve their brand image online. And so you want to be getting a sense of what AI mentions about you, and then also how independent sources mention you as well. So what does success look like? Well, success looks like ranking well in SEO and performing well in AI search. It's not one or the other. Don't pick one or the other. Don't listen to the hype masters about AI search. It's just not how the world works. So you need to be very deliberate about how you're driving organic traffic. I'm going to speed up a little bit because I know I'm running over. So the question obviously isn't whether to adapt. The question is like, how are you going to adapt right now as fast as physically possible? If your competitors work this out before you, if your competitors work out how to answer those questions before you, that's going to be a significant difference in your first touch attribution for new customers and existing customers who will be torn from you because you will not be present in that conversation. So as you know, and I will go into this a little bit more later on, we built Searchable to help businesses to understand AI search and to optimize towards driving customers and success. And so our system shows you exactly where your sources are, your citations or mentions over time, shows you then on top of that, which I think is our key USP, is that we aren't just giving you analytics, which I think we've had analytics forever. We are giving you the actions and the opportunities and the workflows on top to help you actually implement this work. And so hopefully I wrapped up exactly on time. Look at that. That's unbelievable. So lucky. There's actually so many people on this call. That's amazing. So I am now going to introduce you to and hand over to Dan, who's going to talk a little bit about how Zapier are doing their. What's up, Dan?
Hello, good to be here. That was great,
Excellent.
Chris.
Thanks very much for joining us. So, yeah, I mean, I'll hand over to you. Please tell us how you have been so successful, what you're doing, and what the takeaways for the audience can be right now.
Sounds good. Just want to make sure everyone can see my screen all right.
Uh, I can see it. Yeah,
I'm gonna assume yes. Great. Sounds
yeah.
good. Great. Well, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. That was really great from Chris. I'll echo a lot of the statements that he made, and also mention that Zapier, we're big Searchable fans over here as well. But I'm coming to you live from Boston, so it's just getting into the morning over here. It's cold. It snowed last night. If I look tired, it's because I have three kids, all under 5, and none of them slept very well last night. But I'm very excited to get to spend some time here talking about what we're doing at Zapier and sort of how we're thinking about the AI search space, the changes that we're making, how we're seeing it work in practice, and I'll share kind of as much as I can about what's going on under the hood. For those of you that might not know Zapier, or if you haven't looked this up in a while, we're the most connected AI orchestration platform in the world. So AI might be your thought partner. Zapier is a thing that you bring in to connect all your apps so you can automate workflows, really drive AI orchestration, and do it without code, and do it in a way where you have governance and your AI programs and agentic workflows actually work the way you want them to work when you want them to work. And so we're working with some of the largest companies in the world with millions of users, really helping them just orchestrating their AI agents and enabling everyone, as I mentioned, to build intelligent automation at scale. It's a very exciting and fun time. I've actually just been here for about 3 months since taking over the marketing team at Zapier. I spent the last 6 years in the weather and climate space. So it's been really fun in the last couple months to get up to speed and to really start getting into this market more. Just having used Zapier for so many years. But it's I mentioned it's a pleasure to be here. I think this post may or may not be the reason that I was invited to the call today. But at Zapier, we really try to share as much as possible that we can and try and educate the market on sort of what we're seeing at scale, not just the good, but the bad, and what we're learning and what we're testing. And so we put this post out a little while ago that got a whole bunch of reactions and conversations started, which essentially was, 25% of our signups are being influenced by LLM recommendations. And whether or not that number is exactly right, higher or lower, the overall sentiment here is that focusing on LLMs is no longer a consideration. It's a must. And we're seeing so much fluctuation and we're seeing so much change happening within the market in general that for the holdouts or for the people that aren't going all in, my biggest worry is that the gap between sort of the best in class and everyone else, that gap is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so there's things that we're investing in right now with LLM search that may end up being wrong, that may end up being a waste of time, but it's all within the context of we think that LLM search and geo is a huge part of life, of industry moving forward. And we want to be on the cutting edge and on the know for everything so that when big shifts happen, it's much easier for us to evolve our strategy because we have so much muscle memory within the team, not just within marketing, but across all of go-to-market, across our finance organization. When I need to go to my CEO or my CFO and say, hey, I need to invest more in here, they understand why, and it's not kind of like a day one conversation with them. So I'll talk about sort of a lot of things that you see here, but just wanted to give context as to sort of what's been going on. And you just heard, Chris mention it too. It's interesting. An article just came out recently. There's so much talk about is Chat is ChatGPT or the LLMs, are they taking away from organic search? Should we abandon organic search? Is SEO going away? And we've seen huge numbers and big swings. And I feel like a lot of the research that's coming out, lately is more saying that organic search might not be as dead as people are thinking it is. And it's going to continue to be a huge part of our lives. And I think you also heard, Chris mention, I'd say the same thing around you have to think about your target market. At Zapier, we are working with a lot of tech first, mindset people, first movers, people that are really on the cutting edge of innovation, people with job titles that are literally AI transformation. Like that's a big part of our, target market. If we were working with, more traditional industries, I don't mean to pick on any one, but let's just say if we were just trying to sell to railroads as an example, we might not be as interested right now in geo as we are given who we're going after. But that said, it's clear that the world's not going back, and it's clear that this is going to be a huge part of our lives and strategy moving forward. And so we're going to continue to invest here, but it's important to think about this as the 1 + 1 = 3, not as organic search or geo. That's just not how we're thinking about it. So I'll get into it here, but just really the focus here is how AI search is working in practice, what we're doing, and so I'll just get right into it. Um, our team has really adapted our marketing strategy for AI-led discovery. That's sort of the number one takeaway that I want people to think about here is that yes, we're doing a whole bunch of stuff within the marketing team and within the go-to-market team, but we've also communicated this from a top-down level, and we've gone to the CEO and we've gone to the CFO and we've said, hey, we have been able to rely on this wonderful gift called SEO and even Google paid search for so long. And that's changing. And it's not going away, but that strategy is shifting of how we think about it. And a lot of the ways in which we measured that in the past might be slightly different than how we think about it in the future. And so making sure that we're bringing them along for the ride and really starting to get into this idea of, look, it's not so much about, well, why isn't my page ranking anymore? And that's the thing that we all remember from our SEO days, right? Is you'd say, hey, great news. We're on page one for this new term. Or even better, we're in position one for this new term. And the first thing that your boss does is they go to Google and they look it up and they say, well, I don't see it. I don't see us on page one, or I don't see us in position one, or maybe they do. And everyone's really happy. And we just got really used to thinking like that of, okay, if we do the things we need to do on SEO, we show up on page one, all of a sudden it's great, and we're going to get that traffic. A percent of that traffic will convert, and they'll go into lead nurturing streams, and everything will be great. That's sort of how we thought about SEO. And now we're starting to ask a slightly different question, which is more of a mindset shift of, okay, where is the specific model that we're thinking about, whether it's ChatGPT or Google or Claude or elsewhere? How is the latest specific model learning about us and from whom? So, in all the places that people could find us, where are they starting to learn about us and where are they getting the information to actually list and talk about us? And so, that difference between this traditional SEO and kind of AI search starts to come into play. You think a lot about traditional search, we would think about, persuasive copy, top 10 for 2026 type of listicle articles. Ultimately, it usually came down to a brand point of view. You know, we try to be as objective as possible, but at the end of it, we always end up being the number one of 10. It was very CTA driven. Of course, we were trying to drive conversion, and that notion of why us really mattered. And you did see some brands do a really nice job of staying objective. Some would even go out and, create their own sort of, media organization or research department or something like that. But I think we can all agree a lot of the traditional SEO sort of look like what you see on the left side of the screen. And as we see AI search changing that a little bit, it's trying to shift this notion of persuasion to a neutral explanation of what's going on as a place to learn, a place to do research first versus a place to find. And it's this notion of third-party framing and driving questions and like when should you use the thing that you're looking for and why. And so at Zapier, what we're starting to think a lot about is, okay, of course we want to make sure our product is there and people are thinking about it, but we're also thinking in terms of use cases and education. We happen to play in a space, which is a blessing and a curse for a marketing team, where you can make an argument that every single person at every single company, regardless of size, department, position, could be using Zapier or should be using Zapier. So where do we focus? And how deep do you actually get? With our ability now to create content in either an automated and or programmatic way, we're trying to figure out at what point the diminishing return hits in. For instance, is it good enough now for me to just talk about best practices within AI automation and AI orchestration? Or do I need to really get into use cases specifically within, let's say, a certain industry? Here's how people in the insurance industry are thinking about AI orchestration and using it. Then within insurance, how deep do I have to get? Do I go down to the department level? Here's how marketers within insurance are thinking about AI orchestration. Then within marketing, where do I go? Do I start to get into seniority? Here's how a C level in marketing, in insurance, is thinking about AI orchestration. And how does that look different when it's at the VP level or the manager level? And how might that look different if instead of just marketing, it's performance marketing or brand marketing? And how might that look different if it's outside of the marketing department and I'm talking about sales or HR or ops? And how might that look different if I go into a different industry outside of just insurance? Media, tech, transportation. All these questions are starting to come in. And as you think about how detailed search queries can get and research conversations can happen within an LLM, that's where this notion of creating specific relevant content down to the one-to-one person level becomes really interesting because the results that I'm getting are going to be different than the results that other people are getting. And so we're trying to stay away from using overly salesy language, which we know sort of doesn't perform great within AI contexts. Reviews and community explanations are punching well above their weight. You heard Chris talk about, communities, and I saw things like Reddit, and we'll get more into that. But really, AI is collapsing this, awareness, consideration, and evaluation into this single answer moment. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that, after the decision logic is formed within the LLM, after someone's kind of already come to their decision or they're doing their research, that Zapier is showing up, being named where we want and need to be named. We're being framed correctly in the way that we need to be framed, and that we're being recommended in the right scenario. And so this success of, you know, okay, did they visit our site? That's one thing. But really, did they mentally select us? That's how we're really trying to think about it. And what I love about it is that success really lives in the brand here, in the customers that you have, how they talk about you, in the storytelling. I mean, what a time to be a storyteller or to be a PR firm or to be a PR professional or to be someone that's really good at gathering consensus and ability to scale community and influence and run influencer programs as well. I mean, all these things are really, really starting to come back to the forefront where we might have seen this more matter or more talked about in, large consumer brands. We're seeing this now really start to play out across the whole B2B space, but across really anyone that wants to live and show up within LLMs, is this notion of, are you being mentally selected first and foremost? Because that's what's going to matter before someone actually comes to your site. So even if you're seeing a decrease in organic traffic to your site, you might be seeing an increase in conversion. You might actually be getting more conversions because the people that are coming to your site are the ones that found you after doing research, and they're now coming to your site having already determined that you are the thing that they need. And that's really what we're driving at Zapier. And so, as I mentioned, we put this report out and saying essentially 1 in 4 new signups influenced by AI. And it's this idea that LLMs have just become a major discovery surface for Zapier. And AI just it's influencing the way people discover, how they sign up, and it's showing up in our data. And as I mentioned, we're really treating AI search as a new acquisition channel, one that we're purely focused on. It has its own strategy, its own way of thinking about measurement, and our investment plan. It's not this AI kind of sidecar thing anymore. It is out in the open for us. And so this strategic shift of going from SEO to GEO, as I mentioned, it's not one or the other. We really are thinking about it in terms of 1 + 1 = 3. And as I mentioned, we still care quite deeply about traditional SEO, but we're now just thinking about it in how it works alongside GEO. And we want to rank very well within our AI systems, which means optimizing how LLMs think, how they learn, how they cite, how they recommend. It's going beyond how just humans click. And so we've shifted our content strategy to be, product first, as I mentioned, use case driven, and really align with the positioning that we're trying to put out there, based on sort of what we're seeing on prompts. And this is another big part, as I mentioned. Yes, we want to do a lot of work within Zapier, and there's a lot of work that happens within our own content that we own on our website, still vitally important. But specific to our GEO strategy, 50% of the content efforts are going off-site. And you just think about how much more important those channels are outside of your website, that maybe some of us have already been relying on that for a long time, but maybe others, it's a little bit more of a wake-up call. Because where we're seeing LLMs learn, original data, research, PR, earned media, social platforms, education platforms, Reddit, YouTube, review platform, all those things are becoming so much more important. And the LLMs, I mean, they are constantly trying to learn and ingest new data. And this is one thing that I think brands can start to get really good at, is trying to find the thing that makes you unique. Trying to find the thing that I always tell my team, if someone was thinking about an LLM strategy at Zapier, how could we say that we are the only company in the world that could be doing this strategy? Because we know our competitors could try and do the exact same thing. Why is our strategy the thing that separates Zapier versus anyone else that might show up for a search or a research conversation on an LLM? And so one thing we think about is we have a ton of proprietary data. The company's been around for 10 plus years. We have millions of users. We're the number one AI orchestration platform in the world. We have so much proprietary data that we can start to put out and educate the world through that and continually put it out. And that's the thing where I think companies used to think about, should we put out an annual report? Should we put out a quarterly report? Should we put out one big report? As opposed to, how can we really start to release data on a consistent basis so that the LLMs continually look for us, they find us, they're signaling, we're signaling to them, include us in the search results. And one real world example that might be a good metaphor here is, with the rise of listening platforms, music listening platforms like Spotify, you start to see music artists like releasing one song at a time more frequently. It's not like, oh, I did an album, I'm going to wait 3 years and release another album. They're starting to tease it out a lot more. And they're also starting to just release one song just to make sure that the algorithms keep them in mind and keep them in people's music rotations. And it's very similar here as you think about your own data and your own value and the thing that makes you unique. So one thing I would definitely say is really think about publishing original data, think about frequency, think about depth, think about relevance. Think about it like you're having a one-to-one conversation with a human and trying to find the most relevant content that they would want to hear from you, not just the broad strokes that maybe we're kind of used to doing. I also mentioned PR. This is a huge one for me. I've been a PR advocate kind of my whole career as a way to punch significantly above your weight within marketing. Forget the LLMs for a second. PR is one of the best, most underutilized channel for demand generation, lead generation, and conversion. And it has lived in this side bucket for so many businesses for so long, where people just thought it was this brand play and they didn't quite know how to measure it. And okay, what's the value of getting one big story per month or one big story per year even? I see PR as an incredible way to build your brand, communicate the narrative, bring people along for the ride, and ultimately drive conversions. And at a place like Zapier, we're thinking about both sort of the largest surface media areas. Wade, our CEO, was on CNN primetime just the other week. But we also think about, very, very niche publications and blogs that might be focused on one industry or might just be focused on tech. So we're all over the place because we want to be everywhere. But if you're a small business or a local business, it might just be a PR strategy within your local community. If you're a larger company, it might be more of the tier one medias. But really thinking about how you bring PR into your narrative and making it a part of your go-to-market plan as opposed to this thing on the side that's comms is a really important one for me. Um, the state of social media is also a big one in terms of growing a real presence and whether it's, Reddit, YouTube, review platforms. I mean, there's so many areas we can continue to invest, and it's hard to know where or why. And I look at this as brands starting to think and really deciding where they want to educate people. I think on social right now, we're all so obsessed with trying to go viral. And as the algorithms are changing, number of followers might not be as important as it used to be. The actual creative is the thing that's really, really important. And finding your best working creative and then turning that into ads and all that kind of stuff. It's the way brands think about social media, it's different. It's a lot different than it used to be. But in the context of LLMs and where they're going to pull from, thinking about your main social channels and where your community is and where your prospects are and where your customers are, and really making sure that you're driving awareness here. And maybe you're leveraging an influencer strategy, maybe you're leveraging a customer strategy, whether it's internal, external efforts. This is a really, really important part of it. And so I just say all this because I hope you can hear in my tone a huge percentage of our work is going off the website. Almost 50% or more is happening off of Zapier. We just know that this is a place that we really, really want to continue to invest. So, how we measure success, I've talked about it a little bit. It's a little bit different. The challenge, of course, AI is answering questions without sending clicks. That can be a hard, hard thing to go convince a CFO or a CEO of. But what we're trying to show is look, the landscape is changing, and the way people find brands now is changing. And directional signals are very, very important now to actual usage behavior and intention and action downstream. And so as we think about, our actual framework here, AI visibility and share of voice within the models. So again, how is a particular model, whether it's Gemini, whether it's GPT, what's going into that model, what's important to it, why is it pulling from certain sources, how are we showing up in one versus the other, citations and referral traffic where it exists. You heard Chris talk a little bit about it earlier, but sentiment analysis on how AI is describing your brand. We think a lot about that. How is it talking about the brand? Is it the way that our brand team thinks it should be talking about it? Is it the way that we hear our customers talking about it? Is it the way that we think the brand should be talked about, or we hope the brand is talked about in the future? Or is it pulling from more of a historical time frame? We also try and talk to just as many people as possible, whether it's surveys or an incrementality modeling. Really, really important. We look at all the data, but we also just want to hear from people and just asking them straight up, where did you hear about us? How did that research go on ChatGPT when you were looking for something within our space? Were we the first brand to show up? When you did find Zapier, how did it talk about us? How did it make you feel? We can run all the data analyses in the world. We can run all the quantitative analysis in the world, but don't forget about the qualitative measurement and don't forget about the fact that it's still humans looking for things using an AI. And so getting a sense of how they feel and how the experiment went can be really, really important. Now, I mentioned we use, Searchable, Zapier, as I mentioned, big fans. The idea here, I'll also just mention, we don't go at this alone. We are trying to bring in partners and thought partners, and it's the early days here. We are very willing to try a large number of things, and will we be using the exact same partners 6 months from now, 12 months from now? I don't know. But what I do know is that there's people out here and there's brands out here and vendors out here that are really, really trying to make companies and really trying to make a name for themselves, specific within AI search and LLMs. And so just two examples here in addition, one is called Petra Labs that we work with. They've done a nice job kind of helping us understand what's going on within LLMs specifically for Zapier, what we should be paying attention to, what we shouldn't be. They've also helped a lot, with internal um, descriptions and how we name things because again, you're kind of building a new language within your organization and you're introducing new terms and new phrases that your CFO or maybe your boss or even your CEO have never really heard or thought about before. And so they're helping essentially build that new language internally. Another one is called the prompting company. Again, just really helping us understand at the model level and across all the different LLMs, why is one thing being cited or not, and what is going into that decision logic. And so again, we work with others here, but just again, my point is there are folks out here that are really, really trying to learn and be in the forefront and don't be afraid to go talk to them. What's changed internally, I think about it in terms of teams, systems, workflows. There's a lot going on. On the team side, we've created a cross-functional geo working group. Um, we think about them as kind of directly responsible for the results. We've carved it out as a thing that we care just as much about, this as maybe our brand efforts or our performance marketing or paid ads efforts. We have people 100% focused on this, but we also don't have them working in a silo, which is really important to note. We have them working in a cross-functional group with our SEO folks, content folks, PR, community, product marketing, our data teams, and really moving that AI search, as I mentioned, from a side project into a clearly owned program, but also something that's at the opportunity and risk at the business level. And so, yes, having a DRI really, really important, but treating geo as something that the whole company needs to care about is pretty important. At the systems level, we've built out visibility, citation tracking. We want to be able to see and understand how Zapier is mentioned in answers and models. And when models change, we start to track that very, very quickly. The week after there's a new model, how does the data look for better, for worse? Do we need to change something? We're constantly trying to stay ahead of what's happening. As I mentioned, monitoring sentiment as well is a big one, and also running incrementality analyses on modeling lifts or not, based on some of the activities that we're doing. And so the last part is around workflows. As I mentioned, we're working from kind of a shared strategy doc. And we're sharing out across the business all the things that are working and all the things that are not. Not everything we do is going to work, but we're running experiments across our blog, across our communities, across our creators, across our PR, and trying to drive very, very fast feedback loops, both internally and externally to the partners that we're working with, is really, really important because our next launch is coming up, our next plan is coming up, and for AI first positioning, we know that we just don't have as much time to wait and to sit on data as we used to. So we're really trying to drive the workflows, but also really shorten the feedback loops to try and change. So all the stuff that we're doing, we're happy right now with where we are, although oddly enough, we still feel like we're so behind and we feel like we have so much to learn every day. And we're certainly not going to be in a place where we're feeling comfortable for, I think, a long time. But in terms of the industry benchmarks right now, we're seeing a lift compared to what's going on with some of the competition. And so it's just to say all the things you've heard me talk about so far, they are real strategies that we're doing, and we are seeing real tangible results from it, and we are seeing the ability to win in your market. So if you feel like you're really behind, or you feel like you don't even know how you can imagine a day when you're winning, the LLM strategy, you can. And just know that there are tangible things that you can do that I've talked about that I'll keep talking about here. That will help you win. The first thing is, your SEO foundation, it definitely still matters. We have invested in SEO for a long, long time. We will continue. And it's in the spirit of education first and trying to bring the most helpful, latest, relevant content to people. And building on top of that, as opposed to replacing it, is where you want to focus. I'll keep saying it, but offsite investment is paying off. You want to continue to pick your offsite channels and go deep there and make sure that you have a really comfortable strategy within your own team about why you're doing the things you're doing, whether it's on YouTube or on Reddit. and thinking about the content you're putting out in the context of how will an LLM or how will a specific model pull from what's happening there. The product use cases, I won't get too much into this again. I already talked about it, but that's the kind of stuff that gets cited more and trying to figure out where your point of diminishing return with relevancy and one-to-one content, what the right balance is for you. It's going to differ for every brand, but the original data, really, really important here. Again, you have to think about this in terms of the content I'm putting out. Why is it new? Why is it specific to my company? Could my competitor put out the exact same content where an LLM or even a person for better just wouldn't be able to differentiate, who wrote this and why? You have to make sure that it's specific to your brand. And this community angle of just continuing to unlock community at scale and really, really having people focus on it. It is hard to crack the YouTube nut. It is hard to crack the Reddit nut. And so making this a core focus for your organization is something that's actually going to make a big difference. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's something you just continue to build and you continue to learn in order to maintain an authentic, non-spammy presence is really what we're all driving for. And I'll also say, look, not everything's worked. There's a lot of stuff that we've kind of learned over time. One kind of over relying on AI citations as a star, right? They're becoming less frequent, especially with new models. We can't always count on them, and they don't always correlate to traffic. So it's one thing where we're saying, okay, this is important, but it might not be the only thing, or we can't hang our hat on it. LLM only pages, this is a big one. I've gotten into conversations around, should we build, side pages, side websites, LLM only websites, AI pages? Is it the point where it's just the AI searching for an AI and the AIs are talking? From what we've seen so far, creating just for AI as opposed to being in parallel with human-oriented content is the better way to approach it, and much more effective to embed like an LLM friendly structure into your user-facing pages, is what we've really seen continue to drive. The last thing is I talked a lot about PR because I know that it's very important, but it's also imperative to have a focused and tight PR strategy as opposed to a spray and pray. Let's just get PR anywhere, and if we do, everything will work out great. We've seen very specific media publications get cited within the LLMs for Zapier. Like I know the top three, PR spots that I want to be right now. And is that going to change in 6 months? It might. But right now, it's not like I'm saying to the team, we need to be in 100 different like media publications if we want to improve our LM search results. We want to be in 100 different media publications for different reasons because it's a good way to grow the brand. But specific to the search results and what's coming up within LLMs, you can actually start to see at a specific level or publication what's working and where you want to overinvest your time. And so focusing and putting your placement on a high authority domain for your brand is what's most important, because it's going to differ a little bit. Where we're still learning is in a couple different areas. One is this notion of programmatic. And so extending the existing programmatic SEO capabilities that we've had into long tail and AI native queries. This is where we're starting to put a lot more research and exploration. The long tail and the conversations happening within LLMs, it's extensive. How many follow-up questions I ask when I'm trying to learn about something new or when I'm trying to figure out, what the best recommended thing is for Zapier or for my own life outside of Zapier. It's ways in which we've never seen, search happen before. It's a different thing. And so trying to understand again this point of diminishing return of how specific do you get with your content and how deep and how one-to-one can you go with the relevancy. That's where it starts to get really, really interesting. I mentioned the faster learning loops, but it's something that we're continuing to improve and tighten our cycles to try and build out durable systems that are going to last. It might seem like we're working with so many different vendors and so many different strategies. We're trying not to chase everything and chase every model release. We're just trying to think about this in the fact that there is so much to test, there is so much to learn. Is there a way that we can learn without disrupting, the core efforts of growth that we're trying to implement with the team? We have, and I'd recommend every company think about this. we have AI specific people that are dedicated to just looking and exploring new tools, new vendors, updates happening across the LLMs. And they're coming back to the broader marketing team and saying, hey, of all the stuff that you heard in the last week, in the last month, in the last quarter, this is the stuff that we're not so worried about. That's kind of BS. This is the stuff that we're interested in, and this is stuff that we are really, really focused on because it matters. And so they're trying to help block out the noise because we can all get lost in our own, LinkedIn echo chambers, or if you're paying attention to tech news, I mean, every day there's something new for us to hear and think about. So we have people that are basically dedicated to that to help us understand where we need to pay attention and where people can just continue to focus on their day to day. Ads, of course, are a big one. The news coming out now that ChatGPT, it's coming. You heard Chris talk about it a little bit. I think it's gonna look, at least to start, I would assume very similar to what Google did. And it's gonna be this notion of 1 + 1 = 3. And so, as another post that we did recently, but starting to think about and actually asking ChatGPT, based on the expected ads rollout that's going to be on the way, I was just curious, what am I going to see? What are going to be the ads that are probably going to be targeting me based on what you know about me as the person that runs marketing at Zapier? And so you can start to see over on the right, it's very funny. The first ad that they recommended I'd probably see was actually themselves. And so it's this notion of, oh, here we go again, paid plus organic. And we all remember years and years of Google telling us you have to buy your brand terms, 1 + 1 = 3, and you're going to have an overall lift. Um, how much that was true or not. I mean, there was a clear lift, but of course it was, I think, done in a way to drive significant revenue on the paid ad side. We're going to see, I assume, OpenAI run a very similar type of model. And so my guess is that we're going to see a really strong organic strategy paired with a really strong paid strategy being the most influential and the most successful programs out there. How it's going to look, sponsored recommendations, preferred tools, enterprises trying to put their, paid answers in. We'll see. I don't know how it's going to look exactly, but I do have a sense that there's going to be budget opportunities here, and there's definitely going to be a need to evaluate all the different channels where you're spending and start to ask, does it make sense to us to do a shift over here, and how do we test? And so here, I actually do think we can lean on the learnings that we've had in traditional SEO because we've kind of gone through this before to some degree of we started to put ad dollars into SEO and then measure the overall impact and lift. And I think it'll be similar here. So it's coming. What we're trying to do at Zapier now is, one, try to get access to ads as quickly as possible, same as anyone else. But in the meantime, we're also building all of the intake systems and the way we'll think about it and report on it so that the day that we do get access, we just go and we don't have to then go waste, weeks building, okay, now we have access, how it's all going to work. We're sort of acting like we already have access to it, so we can just plug it right into the existing system as soon as we do get that access. My one other note is, regardless if you're using Zapier or if you're using another automation tool, the answer is good. You don't want to do this without automation and AI. GEO, it's funny, it feels more like portfolio management than optimization. There's multiple LLMs to be paying attention to. There's multiple models within each of those to be paying attention to. Based on your customer and your prospects, they're using all of the LLMs or some of the LLMs in very, very different ways, and it's changing. And so what we're trying to do is keep a focused strategy, make sure that we feel good about that, and also make sure that we're evolving our go-to-market over time. And so as I mentioned, it's more of like this portfolio management than, oh, we can just go nail this thing and everything will work. We're always trying to just make sure that everything is moving forward and we're learning and we're on the cutting edge of it. And again, a lot of that depends on sort of who your customers are and where they're at. So bottom line, 1 in 4 signups for us being influenced. I think that number is only going to continue to grow. Huge percentage of our effort is happening off-site. This cross-functional ownership and bringing the company into your strategy is really, really important. And this idea of having this product-first content and unique approach, unique data, unique product, unique offering that really, really is specific to your organization is critical. it's interesting. Your product decisions are now going to affect the AI answers. The product marketing language that you use is going to be the language that goes into models. The community behavior that's happening is going to be the thing that's influencing how the results show up and how you get talked about. And PR, it's no longer just top of funnel. It's weird to say it, but it's like PR becomes training data. And where you get that PR matters. And so that's just a wild, wild way to think about the next level and the next rev of marketing and how it works within your AI search if this is something that's really important to you. Um, and so that is it for me. Really appreciate being here. Happy to open it up to any questions. But yeah, thanks again for everything today. See if I see any questions. All right, so had a couple questions come in that I want to make sure we get to. So first question, Dan, do you give LLMs as an option in your "Where did you learn about us" survey? I recently saw uh, this on Tally. Okay, surprise. So do we give LLMs an option to "Where did you learn about us" in a survey? Yeah, as I mentioned, I think this question gets into, how much do you want to learn, whether it's qualitative or quantitative. And I think for us, we always want to be asking people where they heard about us. How relevant that data is, we think it's pretty relevant. It's going to differ in terms of, how each organization thinks about it. But as I mentioned, I always just want to be talking to as many customers as I can, as many prospects as I can. I want to learn about, where you heard us. I almost think about it as like just like product managers and product marketing managers, they listen to as many customer calls as possible and they try and get gong highlights and all that kind of stuff. I think about it in the exact same way. I just want to know how people that show up found us and what that experience was like because it's new. And I think the learnings that we're getting right now in the early days, where first mover advantage matters quite a bit, the learnings I'm getting, even if it's just from a few conversations a week, really, really matter. So right now, I'm trying to invest as much time and having the team invest as much time in the tools, but also in the actual conversations. Um, Next question, how do we track signups with AI, especially when they do research over a long period of time and don't notate where they found you? Really, really good question. And I think this is one where I won't say that we've solved it, but we have signals and we're continuing to learn. So, one is I mentioned running like incrementality tests. So if we blast out a specific, paid test, or if we run a specific PR campaign or a specific new brand campaign, how does that influence search? How does that influence the amount of traffic that's coming in? So we're starting to run tests there, but our data science team, our finance team, our marketing team, we're all aligned on sort of how we're tracking and sort of where our comfort levels are. We're looking at it also in terms of, okay, how much search are we getting from traditional SEO versus, what we used to get? And how does the overall amount of traffic we're getting to the site compare now? And so those are a couple different ways we're thinking about it. I think my overall approach here would be, one, don't go at it alone. Don't go at it as a marketing team in a silo. Try and bring in other teams to help us think through it. Also, some of the vendors that, you saw today are great ones to think about as well. Last question, and then Ethan, I think it'll be time for me to turn over to you. But last question here is, with content granularity for each audience, how would you navigate content production to ensure you're reaching all these nuanced audiences on a consistent basis without burning out? That is a fantastic question. And I think it goes back to my notion of don't try and do this alone. Don't try and do this solo. And I don't just mean working with vendors. I mean using AI and automation to drive your AI strategy. We are trying to automate as many things as possible. We have, we have Zaps, we have Zapier agents that are out in the wild, constantly looking at what's happening across the social platforms, what's happening across the media platforms, how Zapier is being talked about, what market trends are going on in the broader context of the world, and why that matters to Zapier. We're thinking about it on an industry level, as I mentioned, and trying to figure out like, okay, how granular do we need to get and where does it matter? So if I have new best practices, is it broad? Is it within a certain industry? Is it within an industry plus seniority level? And then within a department? Like we're just having all those conversations now, but we're building automation to help inform us as to what's working and what's not. And we're running specific tests. So if we build out content at a broad level, how does that perform versus broad plus industry? And then broad plus industry plus department, and then broad plus industry plus department plus seniority, right? You can start to see the traffic on those types of pages or where you're showing up. Um, and so we're kind of learning on the fly. And where that point of diminishing return is, or said in a different way, where your maximum opportunity is going to differ for every company. But it's, one, it's about building the muscle because these are new ways to think about intent signals and traffic and how people are finding your brand. And so to me right now, the most important part is actually just trying to build that muscle and getting the team comfortable thinking through this and running the experiments and running the tests so that as models continue to evolve and search trends continue to evolve, we're tweaking our strategy as opposed to just having to come in with a whole new one, which can be a lot more arduous. So, great questions. Really, really appreciate it. As everyone, as I mentioned, really, really appreciate the time. I think, Ethan, it's time for me to turn it over to you.
Hi, Dan. You have like 15 minutes left, so if you want to answer a few more questions, that would be great.
Oh, sounds good. Oh, okay, great. Oh, here we go. Oh, okay, a lot more. Okay, cool. All right. What is a DRI? Apologies, great question. Just directly responsible individual. And so essentially, as I mentioned, just having someone that is directly responsible for our LLM results. Someone that's waking up every morning and just thinking about what do the numbers look like, what's happening in the industry. This has been really important, I think, versus just having, our SEO team also do GEO. They're very, very closely involved, but we have, we want people that are solely dedicated to this because we think it's such an interesting opportunity. So great question. But yeah, DRI just focuses on kind of directly responsible. Next question. With a lean team, how can we best focus efforts and what is most effective? 1 to 2 dedicated resources trying to run the whole marketing machine. Yeah, really, really good question. And I'll say this, the company that I was at for the last 6 years before this, the company called Tomorrow.io, they're a weather and climate company. I was a 4-person marketing team with a very, very small budget. And we were competing against huge companies, like biggest companies in the world, basically, with teams, marketing teams in the thousands of people and endless budgets. We leaned into AI as much as humanly possible. We were first adopters on, things like ChatGPT and things like HeyGen for AI avatar creation and, Google VO3 and Sora and Google Notebook, all those types of things. We were first movers on all of those types of things. And we were trying to use AI to automate all the manual tasks and get time back. So what you're trying to do with a small team is get time back as much as anything else. And so the first thing you need to do is be able to automate all the things that just take up your time, that you're able to automate in a way where you're not sacrificing quality. We got to a point very quickly at my last company, and of course we're already here with Zapier. Like I don't even want to think about manually writing a press release. That's just already, if I want to do a press release, it's written and I'm just in editing mode and it's done within 5 minutes. Um, that if you can't do that for all of the marketing tasks that you have, you're never going to be able to keep up with everything else going on because you're still working in kind of the old world. So just don't discount going through every single marketing process that you have. And first and foremost, just doing the basics to make sure that you've automated everything as much as you can to get back as much time as you can. That's one thing I have been really, really trying to work with teams as much as possible. So even if you're just 1 or 2 people, if you can free up an hour or two a week to do this, that makes a big, big difference. The other thing is, you heard me talk about not spraying and praying on things like PR, and I'd probably say that, elsewhere too. You're not going to be able to do everything. And so if you want to pick a platform to go deep on, one area to go deep on, that's going to be more important than trying to like be everywhere a little bit. You always want to be watching it, and that's why I sort of talk about it as like a portfolio. But you should be able to look. and say, okay, of all the areas where my brand is showing up, I've decided to make this bet for the next couple months, and I have conviction as to why. And don't be afraid to say no. We try and say no as much as possible. It's hard, but we just have to call our shots and go for them. Next question. The question is around product first and product-led content doesn't necessarily work as well in AI. So you'd like to understand, so what's working for Zapier here? Interesting. Okay. So a question was around, how much do we lead with product versus non-product specific content and what works the best? Great question. I think what we're finding is that, look, you want to make sure that the market knows why your product is the best and when your product is the best, why and when. And you should feel really, really good about putting up that confident, we have the best product for this, we're better than our competitors, we're best in market, and you should be unapologetic about that. I don't think you should ever get away from that. However, we're also seeing, we know that AI is going to consider everything else as being talked about online. And so you start to think about where you could differentiate because you're saying that your product is the best, but guess what? Your competitor is saying the content you're creating, how do you create content that you know your competitor couldn't copy or they couldn't create on their own? And one is through things like proprietary data. So that's starting to surface some of the product usage or the product opportunities or value that people are getting from your product that your customer or your competitors cannot put out the exact same data. So that's an interesting take. And there's different angles you can take that might differentiate from competitors. The other one, though, is your customers. If I have a great customer talk about Zapier and they're a Zapier user, I know that my competitor is not going to be able to talk about that customer and they're not going to be able to copy it. And as I can start to build on that strategy and move it from one customer to a specific set of customers within an industry, to a lot more customers, to communities, to influencers, and that's when you get this much, much larger consensus and group talking about you where you're just in a different spot than your competitors. It's nothing that they can go copy. But you have to build the first step first. You have to go from 0 to 1 before you start to go into the much larger community. So we love to start with our customers because they are our best advocates. And the more we can put that type of content out, the better. So great question. Next one. In your opinion, is it more effective to target bottom of funnel keywords for AI search versus top of funnel as a small company? Yeah, it's a good question. I think what I would try and do is think about all the different ways in which someone would search and where your company could come up. And you should perform bottom of the funnel, middle of the funnel, top of the funnel searches to see what's coming up and to try and think about where might we want to show up and where might we get cut out of the conversation and the journey if we're not there. So if we think about LLMs as a place of research and as a place where people are potentially making up their mind or being heavily, heavily influenced, and if that's the type of searches that you're seeing, then that would suggest that a top of funnel strategy would be more important because you want to be there in the consideration phase. Now, maybe this is because you have a number of other competitors, and if you're not in the top of funnel conversation, you won't make it to the bottom of the funnel. But maybe you don't have so many competitors, or maybe you're going after more of a local strategy. And after some research, the most important thing is that the person's getting to the decision-making process. That's when bottom of the funnel would come more into play. So I don't mean to give you a it depends answer, but I would really say that I would just look at all the searches in which you could come up, whether it's top, middle, bottom of the funnel, and start to think about where is it most important for your particular company based on the goals that you have to show up, be continuously in the conversation or the research, and where do you not want to get cut out, and those types of things. So that's kind of how I would think about it. Great question. Next question is around pricing strategy. What specific factors you look for in a platform? How do you measure value ROI we're getting from a vendor? Great question. There's so many vendors out there right now, and there's so many different, things that you could build within AI. to try and help you with your LLM search results and strategy. The thing I think that I'm the most worried about is getting locked into something that may or may not be relevant. It used to be, 12 months from now, but now it's 6 months. Now it might be 3 months. Now it might be month to month. Um, I do want to go in on some platforms and call our shot and go, but I also don't want to get locked into something where I'm going to have regret a year from now. And so we are trying to experiment with as many offerings as possible where the financial risk is as low as possible to Zapier, but then also have a plan in place around how are we going to measure success in the shortest amount of time where we feel like, okay, we not that we want to get locked in, but we want to select a partner and go for it. And so that's sort of what I would say now on pricing strategy is don't lock people out from the start. Bring people in, let them talk to your team, let them try your product, let them get comfortable with it, and let them get to a point where they feel like, I don't want to do my job without without this vendor. I can't do my job without this. And at that point, your LTV is gonna speak for itself because they're gonna have both the business impact and this emotional tie to the product where they're really, really going to feel like this is the thing I want. It's easy to go get a quick buck, try and charge people up front. I signed up for a new video platform that just raised a bunch of money. And they have, they're very good at getting money up front. But as I was signing up for it, I was also canceling the account, 30 days from now. And it was just a research project. I know, I can already see, I know that it's not the thing that I need, but I really, really want to learn from the things that they're doing. So like literally as I pressed like buy, the next thing I did was go and cancel the account for 30 days. So, you just want to be a little bit careful about that. You might get upfront success, but how long lasting is that? But really, really good question. Um, Next question. How well can your SEO and GEO teams work together? Since there's a lot of overlap between the two, any best practices you want to share to manage that? Yes, great question. They work well together because ultimately they have the same goal. And given that we are a company that serves millions and millions of users and companies and individuals of every shape and size, traffic matters to our website, and how many people come to the website and how qualified they are and what their intent is matters. And so the SEO and the GEO team, I mean, ultimately what the output of their efforts are is people coming to Zapier and signing up for the product and buying the platform. And so there's comfort in shared goals. And to the extent that you can do that, it really, really helps. And to the extent that you can show both of them that they're both a critical piece of the puzzle, and get that understanding with them high up in the organization. So the SEO and the GEO efforts, they know that the CEO knows and the CFO know that both of their efforts are critical. And we don't want to do one better than the other. And we don't want one to be the leader than the other. We want to understand what's happening in the market. And we want strategies that make sense for both teams. Or when you marry them together, it's the 1 + 1 = 3 mentality. And so everyone is fully aligned there. Like, you're really trying to drive home the fact with the SEO team, and they know this. SEO is not dead. It's not going away tomorrow. It's still a huge, huge component. And we can learn so much from how much you've spent in SEO over the last, 2, 5, 10 plus years to help influence what we might expect is going to happen next in our geo strategy. So, one, making sure that both teams understand that there's huge value for both of them and the organization values them, in a way that's going to get them motivated and excited. And we're thinking about this really from the top down. So a lot of it, I think, just goes into how you're structured, how you're communicating, value for each of them is really important. That question, Dan, are you noticing a powerful synergy between AI search and video ranking within AI search? Really, really great question. A lot of, as I mentioned, we're kind of getting like 4x increase over competitors, and we're very invested in video. We're very invested in our YouTube strategy and elsewhere. So it's a place that we're well invested in. Yes, I'm seeing a powerful synergy. I also just think I always try and think about all the marketing efforts that we're doing. And I think if LLMs didn't exist, would we still be doing this? And of course, we'd be doing a ton of video. It's the way that we really feel like we can educate and show the product and show results. So yes, synergy is great, but even if LLMs didn't exist, I'd still be doing it quite a bit. So great question. And I think that actually brings us to time.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that was a fantastic session. And as Chris said before, thank you so much for taking your time and sharing the Zapier perspective. We really appreciate it.
Sounds
So with
good.
that said, I want to also introduce Ethan. So welcome up. You can just share your screen and mic when you're ready.
Great. Thank you for having me. Okay. So I have given probably over 30 presentations on this subject, and it's hard to say something new and that I haven't said before. So I want to try to optimize this presentation for only things that I have not said before, live demos, and no slides. So I have 0 slides, only live demos. Okay, so a bit about us. We are Graphite. We're an SEO, AEO agency. We are not the code review tool that Cursor just acquired, although we have the same name. So I want to talk about that. Okay, so let me start with Lululemon pants, and I will share my screen here. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so search is usually we're focused on winning non-brand search, meaning I want some yoga pants. What are some good yoga pants? And a lot of how people use LLMs is to ask about brands. So a lot of it's branded, and people will ask questions like, "Are they good?" And so you'll see here, are Lululemon pants good for yoga? What do people complain about? And you will see here that the number one complaint is about pilling. Let's see if I can find it. Number one complaint is about pilling. Yep. Okay, so pilling and durability. And why does this happen? So there are a bunch of different citations, which you'll see here. And it's the usual suspects, Reddit, YouTube, affiliates, places like that. And you will see here that there's this Reddit thread, which is talking about pilling. So there's a bunch of people talking about pilling. You'll also see that this is 3 years old, and you can't comment on it. So if I'm Lululemon, there's nothing I can do about this. I can't comment. I can't ask people to remove their comments. This is completely locked, and so there's nothing I can do about this. And you'll see here there's another Reddit thread in this set of citations talking about pilling. So how do I address this? I can't remove this. I can't comment on it. It's locked. What I can do is I can figure out why is it pilling, and the reason why Lululemon pants will pill is how you wash them and whether or not you dry them. So Lululemon has all this content about washing in cold water here. So wash in cold water, product and wash care, cold water. And so they did all this thought leadership, TikTok videos, YouTube videos, etc., saying, wash your pants in cold water. This will prevent pilling. Okay, so then I ask Reddit Answers. Reddit Answers is great, by the way. If you haven't tried Reddit Answers, it is an LLM that just feeds on top of Reddit. And so, do Lululemon pants pill? Yes, they do. However, wash, and this is summarizing what people are saying. So Lululemon does this thought leadership about cold water and delicate and don't dry. Then you will see people talking about follow the delicate wash cycle and cold water. And you will then see the latest Reddit threads. So this is from 3 months ago. And I love my Lululemon pants. Okay, so then you'll see people saying it's not pilling. There's no pilling, no pilling. So basically, there's all these comments from people saying Lululemon pants pill. Step 1. Step 2, Lululemon does content about washing in cold water. And then people say it's not pilling. So basically, rather than the removal of the negative, it is doing content across all these different owned channels, which then results in people saying it doesn't pill. This is sort of a complex, but this is the best way to do online reputation management and remove negative things is not to remove the negative, but to have so much positive stuff that then pushes down the negative. The next thing, okay, yeah. So this is another interesting thing. Okay, so everyone knows that Reddit is a top cited domain. So the obvious thing is, if I'm Lululemon, I want to show up to threads where people are asking about yoga pants, and then I say my yoga pants are the best yoga pants, or like who's the best project management software. I'm going to show up to some threads and start saying I'm the best project management software. And that's hard to work. So you'll see here, I've been exploring Reddit, and there was a thread talking about, I think it was talking about SEO or AI generated content. So I said, hey, I'm Ethan, and I'm at this company called Graphite. Then I got banned from the subreddit. So I wasn't even trying to promote myself, but I was saying the company that I was at. So you'll see here, stop spamming my subreddit. You don't see everyone talking about their unknown startup and themselves. And then you have been permanently banned. So why this matters is you cannot just show up to Reddit and start promoting your brand. It's kind of like if you showed up to a dinner party and with people that you didn't know. You showed up to their house, you went to the dinner party, and then they were talking, and then you sort of subtly said, "Hey, by the way, have you considered using Rippling for your payroll management software?" That would be strange, and that's essentially what Reddit is like. You should not just show up and start promoting yourself. You want to be a part of the community, and if people are asking about you, engage, but don't just promote yourself. Okay, so then what does that look like? Okay, so when people are talking about you, you should be a part of the conversation. So here, and especially when people are talking negatively about you. So this is an example of a thread where people are specifically talking about me. And they said, is Ethan Smith an overhyped AI SEO influencer? Or am I missing something? He's all over the place. Why is he here? So one thing I could do is just not engage, but then I'm not a part of the conversation. So I should be part of the conversation. So then I introduced myself, and then I didn't disagree necessarily, but I just tried to give useful information and be authentic and like, here's your argument, here are my opinions. Okay, so then the result of this is a negative thread about me, about my brand. And then the result of this is that the mod of this account said, yes, he is full of it. Ethan, he uses the opportunity, the trending topic, to build hype around himself, and he does it well. Okay, then when I'm engaging authentically, he says, this is great. Welcome to the sub. Thank you so much. Then it went so well that I just did an AMA with this exact same subreddit about answer engine optimization. And it was the most commented, most liked post in the subreddit. So why this is relevant is because a negative thread about you then becomes your biggest champion and is the most engaged with thread in the subreddit. So when people are talking, so don't show up to threads when people are not asking about you and promote yourself. Engage when people are talking about your brand and engage authentically. And your biggest detractors can become your biggest champions. Okay, so then here's another example of this. This is a Webflow subreddit where people are asking about using Webflow, and then someone from Webflow is engaging. So hey, so how do you do this? The one route is to create a bunch of fake Reddit accounts and impersonate other people and pretend like you don't work at Webflow. So that's one option. That's risky. The other is to just say, this is who I am. I work at Webflow, and here's a useful answer to your question. Here's another example. How do you optimize blah, blah, blah? And then again, someone who works at Webflow. Also, you'll notice that this is not the CEO of Webflow. This is somebody who works at Webflow. So it doesn't have to be just the CEO. It could be a bunch of different people at the company. Employee generated content, some call it. And here is one more example from Webflow. So again, don't just show up to threads where people are not talking about you and promote your product. Engage in threads where people are talking about you, but engage authentically. Don't try to remove negative things. Just try to give useful information and be authentic. Okay, so that is Reddit. Let's move on to video. Okay, so we all know that video is also top-sided domain. So YouTube, Vimeo, TikTok, Instagram, these are all top-sided domains. Okay, so I want to find resources to create a website for my business. Help me find stuff. And let's see if this works. Okay, so Webflow University. And we work with Webflow. So Webflow has this whole series of videos, including on search engine optimization. But there's a bunch of different videos about how to build a website, how to build a custom design portfolio, how to build a website for your business. And you'll see that is linked to here. And then let me show you this. Let me show you this. Help me find resources to create a website for my business. Okay, cool. So then again, you'll see Webflow University also mentioned here. By the way, ChatGPT, I think it has like 2/3 market share, and then Gemini is the second largest. And then Gemini just signed with Apple. So if I had to pick two, I would pick ChatGPT and Gemini. The others are great, but they're smaller. So I'm mostly focused on these two. But you'll see in both cases, I want to build a custom design portfolio. Webflow shows up. Webflow shows up for their Webflow University. Help me find stuff to create my custom design portfolio. Yep. So again, we see Webflow mentioned. And okay. So then the other thing is that a lot of companies will do stuff about their products, but not about how to do X. And I think you should do both. So here you'll see Webflow, and a lot of this is how to use Webflow, but not everyone's looking. People who don't know what tool to use are not explicitly looking for Webflow. So you also want to have topics about stuff where people are looking for use cases or solutions to their problems. So what I would essentially do is, video is expensive. So I would just take your top SEO landing pages and then buy traffic and then create videos for those. So that would be how to do X, what is X, templates, tools, things like that. Make videos for your top URLs. Why that matters is because A, you don't have to waste money on stuff that isn't going to work. So you're cherry picking the things that you know are going to work. Number one. Number two is you will show up for some of these how to do X type queries. The third is you will also have your video show up in search. So let me show you this here. Oops. What is identity and access management? So this, essentially, you're creating a loop. So you have a video on YouTube, you can get views there. You have a video on your landing page, you get views there. You also show up in video search, and you also show up in the LLMs. And it's hard to get views for videos within YouTube, but if you put the video on your top trafficked landing page, you will essentially get views for free from your landing page, which then means you get organic distribution within YouTube, which then means that you show up in video carousel, and then you're more likely to show up in the LMs. So let me show you this example. Okay, so help me find resources about parallax animations on my site. And again, Webflow shows up. And this is not about how to use a feature of Webflow. This is how to do X, how to use parallax. And there happens to be a YouTube video showing you how to do that. And then again, you get this loop. And the way that I think about this is the least entertaining products are the best to do videos for, because entertaining categories are the most competitive and the most crowded. So people want to watch videos about travel, food, beauty, not about payroll management software, or identity and access management. Like, nobody wants to spend their Friday night watching videos about identity and access management, which means that it's not crowded, which means that it's great for video. So here you'll see, help me find resources about identity and access management. Okay, so then you'll see this stuff here, and then you will see this YouTube video from Rippling about identity access management. And you'll see that this is not a super expensive, highly produced video. Like, anyone can do this. You don't need to be an influencer. 4.3K views. It's not that many. It's not like it's, a million views, but it shows up, and it shows up because it's not a crowded category. And you'll see Rippling has 224 different videos. So again, you could literally just take your landing page and then just pay someone to summarize what was on your landing page. Not that expensive. Make a loom. And then it shows up in AI search. It shows up in video search. You can put it on your landing page. You get more engagement. And then you have this loop. Let me see here. Okay, so that's video. Let me move on to my next thing, which is on-site. Okay, so on-site answer engine optimization. Okay, so those are other sites. So there's on-site, which is my site. There's off-site owned, which is my YouTube channel, and then there's off-site earned, which is other people talking about me, which is the Reddit example. So those are sort of the three different things that I think about. Okay, so we talked about off-site. Let's talk about on-site. And website creation, yes. Okay. No. Let me do this here. 1 second. Okay, yep. So how do I get my domain to show up? And I think Dan was mentioning that there's a lot of similarity between SEO and answer engine optimization, which is definitely true. The way that I think about it is everything in SEO works in answer engine optimization for free. Then there's incremental stuff. The incremental stuff is the offsite, but everything in SEO just works for free in answer engine optimization. Here are some specific examples. So for Webflow, website templates, and we added FAQs. Oops, FAQs worked really well. You'll see here. So now, how do you find, like, what should the FAQs be? And the way that I think about that is to leverage search data. So you'll see here, there's 110 different keywords. And you'll see some themes here. So there's template, there's business, professional, and there's for professional services. So you'll basically see there's all these different sub themes and subtopics, and that's how you can inform what should be in your FAQs. Like, are there professional service templates for business and branding? So again, this goes back to the business services website templates. So basically, you want to take all these different words and subtopics, theme them. You don't need to have every single one of these be an exact match, but generally theme them, and that's how you can come up with your FAQs. The next example, and this is an idea. We tried this. This caused an outcome. So traffic went up by a decent amount. Views, yeah, we doubled traffic basically when we were doing this. FAQs. Specifically, we did it on 250 different template pages, and then it had an 8% increase in traffic. Then the next example is headers as questions. So header version 1 would be PNG versus JPEG. Header version 2 would be what are PNG versus and JPEG image formats. And it doesn't have to. You don't have to like over optimize the headers to be perfect. They can be like, make them natural. It's like you don't need to keyword stuff your headers. Have headers that are naturally questions. But what are PNG and JPEG formats? versus PNG and JPEG formats. This also had, we tested this on a good number of pages, and this also had a traffic increase from LLMs. Okay, so then the next example, yeah, this is another example. What are AI design tools? And again, this is not overly optimizing for question formats. It's naturally worded. Okay, so the next example is stats and expertise. So we've done some research around AI generated content usually doesn't work, but it works sometimes. And the reason why AI generated content usually doesn't work is the same example. It goes back to email marketing tools. So typically how you do SEO is everyone's rewriting each other's content. So you put this, you take this keyword and you put it into a keyword tool, and then the keyword tool or the writing tool, and it says, this is where other people have talked about, these are the terms that other people have said that you have not said yet. So say them. Said another way, your content can be even more typical and more similar to what everyone else has said. Here's how you can do that. So everyone's just rewriting each other's content. So all of these are basically the exact same page. And if someone does something different, then we'll add even more stuff to make it even more typical. So you're optimizing for being the most typical landing page that you could be, which is not that useful. So everything's just a rewritten derivative of a derivative. This is also why AI generated content usually doesn't work, but works sometimes, which is that when you say, if you went to ChatGPT and said, write an article about email marketing software, this is necessarily going to look at a bunch of other articles and rewrite it. It's a derivative of a derivative of a derivative, the most typical derivative that you could possibly find. That's not useful. And this is why AI generated content usually doesn't work, because you're deriving from the web. Anyone can do that. There's nothing unique or additive about that. So what does work is deriving from a custom data set. So you'll see here Ozempic ratings, drugs.com, which is all stuff that anyone could find. And then you'll see Sermo. So Sermo's here. And Sermo has way less authority than drugs.com and WebMD. And I think they're actually outranking WebMD. Yeah, we're outranking Row, we're outranking WebMD. So this relatively small site is beating both of them. And they have the typical description and dosage, but they have this. And this is a summary, an AI-generated summary of internal reviews from doctors where doctors said, I gave my patient this and this is what happened. So it's basically actual doctors, actual outcomes. It's closed. You can only get the access to this if you are a doctor. And so it's net new. But it has this summary description that is AI generated, but it is a derivation or a summarization of special unique information as opposed to information that anyone can get. So it's a net new piece of content. And it actually, not only does it not harm the page, it makes the page rank even higher above WebMD, despite having much less authority. So that is how I think about AI generated content and also information gain. So here you will see, so again, I'm using my SEO tool and everyone's copying each other's content. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is to add net new stuff, which people call information gain. So say something that hasn't been said before. What could that be? That could be stats. That could be expert quotes. Like if you have if Rippling has an HR expert, get a quote from them and add that to the page. Any stats, and this causes not only higher rank in Google, but also in AI. So here's a specific example. This page about design brand is mentioning a specific stat. So over 75% of visitors judge a website's credibility, blah, blah, blah. So it's not just describing how to make a design portfolio. It is giving a stat that has not been mentioned by the other pages being ranked. Then the algorithm sees not only is this typical, but it said something that somebody else hasn't said, rank higher. And this is an example of that actually causing an outcome. Okay, so let me show you the next example that I have, which is, oh yes. Okay, so one of the most provocative concepts right now is prompt volume. So SEO tools will have keyword volume where you put a keyword in and it says, this is the search volume for this keyword. Wouldn't it be great? Like, how do we even know what prompts we should be thinking about? Wouldn't it be great if we had a prompt volume tool? And there are prompt volume tools. But how should we think about this? And I mentioned that SEO and answer engine optimization are very similar, but there are some key differences. And the differences are that the tail is much, much larger. So OpenAI did this study. Don't worry about trying to read this because it's too small and complicated. But OpenAI did a study with Harvard where they looked at their own prompts and they found a bunch of patterns. And I'll give you the short summary, which is that the prompts are much longer in search. So you'll see here the average number of words per query in Google is 3 words as opposed to 60. This is the average. So the prompts are way more specific. Like, you know, there's the head, mid, tail of search. Everything is in the tail in chat, or like almost everything. People are not rarely are they typing in email marketing tool in ChatGPT. It's this really long prompt, like like help me draft an email to a potentially blah blah blah, and it's really really long. It's not just email marketing software. So everything is in the tail. Number one. Number two is there's net new behaviors. So a third of all prompts are not searching. It's writing, image generation, and self-expression, which are not search behaviors. And yeah, you'll see here 19% is seeking information, 2% is purchasable products. So basically, there's a bunch of prompt behavior that has nothing to do with search and doesn't really matter. Like I don't care to, like, I'm not going to build an email strategy for this because this is me drafting an email to a potential sales lead. Like this has no value to my business to optimize for this. I don't care about this prompt. I care when someone says, help me find a tool that does A, B, and C. And prompt volume. So there's a couple ways to do prompt volume. Prompt volume version 1 would be, I will get a lot of real prompt data from LLM tools or from an analytics tool where it's real prompts, and then I'll take the prompts and then I'll have some sort of offset. But the problem is that a bunch of these prompts are, number one, are irrelevant. So like I don't care about this prompt. Number two is if your prompt volume is just counting the number of prompts that happen to contain email software tool, it's going to get a bunch of prompts that have nothing to do with email software tools. So here's an example. This prompt has the word email, software, and tool. So if I'm just counting prompts that happen to contain email software tool, I'm going to say this is part of that group. But this has nothing to do with email software tools. This is somebody generating a sales an email basically. And so this gets into, is the prompt the primary, is email software tool the primary subject of this prompt, or did you just contain the words? Okay, so then how can you do that? Is the primary subject of this prompt email software tools? So it's actually pretty easy. And how do you classify prompts? Like 10 years ago, you would have to have a whole AI team to classify prompts. Now you can actually use AI to do classification problems. So I can use ChatGPT to classify ChatGPT prompts. Here's an example. And a key thing is the primary subject of this prompt this thing, or did it just contain the words? And you'll see here, you can literally just ask the LLM, is it about this or is it not about this? And it says, no, it's not about this. So how you can classify prompts? Anyone can classify prompts by just asking AI to classify the prompts. So that's the classification piece. Then the second thing that you can do is this prompt a search and discovery prompt or a generation prompt? So is someone even searching in the first place? And again, you can just ask the AI, is this a generation prompt? And again, back to here, a third of all prompts are generation prompts. Write an email, write an essay, make an image, self-expression. How do you classify? You just ask the AI to classify for you, and it says it's a generation prompt. So, if I were to build this, I would just build something where for every single prompt, I say, is the prime, for email software tool, is the primary subject this? And is this a search and discovery prompt or is it a generation prompt? Then you can classify that. So this is how I think about prompt volume, which is as a marketer, I only care about the prompts where I can have my product show up, not generation prompts, search and discovery prompts. And I only care about prompts where the primary subject is the thing that I just typed in. So this is my sense for prompt volume. And then also, again, everything is in the tail, or almost everything is in the tail. So the grouping matters a lot. You can't just count the number of prompts that contain the word email. You need to like properly group these prompts. Okay, so those are my thoughts on prompt volume. And that is all I had to share. So again, I wanted to optimize this for things that I have not shared before at no slides and only live demos. So happy to answer any questions. Oh, I should probably use my document that has questions in it. Let me pull up my document. Okay, so let's go through the questions. Can someone help me drive these questions just so that I can parse through the document properly? Maybe. No. Okay, cool. So let's go through the okay, so VJ had a question. How can a vendor remedy their negative reviews on Google? Okay, yeah, so this is a great question. I have negative reviews on Google. What do I do about that? So the obvious linear solution to this is to remove them, which is very hard. Same with the example that I shared with the pilling of Lululemon pants. So ideally, I go to the Reddit thread and remove the Reddit thread or remove the negative comments. That's impossible. In fact, I can't even comment on it because it's archived. So what do I do about that? The best way to remove negative things is to have so many positive things that it pushes down the negative things. So for Lululemon, I have my product page, I have my YouTube video, TikTok video, Help Center, all this stuff talking about cold water, pushes that down, pushes the negative down. So same with negative Google reviews. I have so much positive content that I push down the negative content. And the more, the better. And I shared that rippling video as well. Take a piece of content and repurpose it on as many channels as possible. So take that thing about identity management and repurpose it on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Vimeo, as many surfaces as possible, so that you can push it down. Okay, next question. The embedded video on landing pages have to be YouTube. Does it have to be YouTube only? Definitely not. So Masterclass uses Wistia for their videos. We work with Vimeo. A lot of people create Vimeo videos, YouTube videos. And I would say the more, the better. TikTok, Instagram, repurpose the video on as many platforms as you possibly can so that your stuff shows up and pushes down the negative, and you're owning everything, because the LLM is looking for consensus. The more of the citations that say what you want, the more likely it is for the AI to have the consensus that the message about cold water or about the positive stuff is consensus. Okay, so somebody had a question about FAQs. Generally, how many questions should I have on my FAQs? Yeah, so let me show you. Yeah, how do you think about FAQs? So I showed how you put your page in here, and I'm targeting all these subtopics of keywords. So I have templates, professional, business template. So it's less about a specific number of FAQs, and it's more about comprehensiveness. Cover all the keywords that you want to rank for. And this is search. This is not AI, but it should be pretty similar. So I would take your search keywords and address all of them. So it's not that you need 3 FAQs or 5 FAQs, it's that you need to cover all of the questions that people had. Let me show you this one other example. So I have 5-year plan, and I have like what should be on my 5-year plan. So you'll see here, like, how do I come up with this? I come up with this by taking my landing page, and you'll see some themes here about the keywords, which is examples, how to do it, and goals, personal and professional. So it's less about how many sections do I need, and it's cover everything. So you'll see here, we have what is a 5-year plan, what are the benefits, what should be in it, how to do it, examples, and how to change your life with this. Same thing with FAQs, same thing with AI, same thing with ChatGPT. Cover everything. So it's not that you need 5, 6 things. It's you covered all of the stuff. Also here, I had FAQs here, and then I also had them as just the body of the content. So it doesn't actually matter if it's an FAQ structured as an FAQ. It just you just need to cover the thing. So you could cover it with a traditional FAQ like you have here, or you could have subsections like this. So that's how to do FAQs. Okay, next question. Let me find, I have many tabs. Let me find the next question. Okay. How did you measure traffic increase specifically attributable to the FAQ change? So we just did a split test. Well, yeah, okay. So I'll say how we did that, and then I'll generalize it. How do we do this? We tested this on, I think it was 250 different pages, and then we looked at the traffic referring domain is AI, is ChatGPT, and then we looked at the number of visits versus the control. So that's how we did that in that specific case. Let me generalize this to how do you do experiments for LLMs? So the first thing is you take a set of prompts that you want to win. So how you would take the set of prompts that you would want to win is back to prompt volume. And actually, I forgot to show you something. Let me show you. Yeah, how do you get the prompts in the first place? So there's all these really long prompts. How do you get prompts? So I said what not to do, which is the panel data approach. Let me show you what to do. So what to do is I would take search data. Yep. Let me do this again. I would take search data to do prompt data. I would Google search data to do prompt data, just because I think panel data is so messy. So here you'll see email marketing tools. Yeah, so we built an internal tool where email marketing tools, we basically take keywords like this and we transform them into questions. You could alternatively take email marketing tools and get search data here, or I would, for 5-year plan, what are my questions? I would take this. I would put it and get my search keywords here. And then I would transform these into questions. So you can take this here. Whoops, let me take this. And then I just do transform these search keywords into questions. This essentially I'll just do an export of the keywords and ask ChatGPT to make them into questions. So 5-year plan example. And it's pretty good. We don't know if this is exactly what it is, but it's pretty good. What is a 5-year plan? How do you create it? What are some good examples? So we built an internal tool that does this, where we take source keywords, which is search keywords, tools for email marketing, and then we transform them into a question version. So you start with your prompts. This is how we get our prompts. Now we want to have our landing page. We're going to do something to it. We want to see if there's an outcome. So you want a control and a test group. It's very important to have a control group. The control group is where you do no changes at all. The test group is where you make changes. This is especially important for AI, because AI is growing so much. If you said AI traffic is going up, Who's to say that that's not just seasonality in the market growing? We don't know. So you have to have a control group. So for Webflow, I think we had 250 pages in the for the FAQ test set, and we had a set where we made no changes, and then a set where we made changes. So in the set where we made changes, we're literally just looking at referring traffic. You can look at that in GA4. Nothing special there. Also, I would put your questions into a visibility tracking tool, and then look to see if your visibility went up. So we added FAQs. We're showing up 50% of the time. Now we're showing up 75% of the time in the prompts that we were tracking. So that's am I appearing? And then is the traffic going up? Yes, no. So that's how we did that test. Okay, more questions. Let me go back to the questions. Okay. If you are a small company or a small brand not being talked about on Reddit, how do you engage on Reddit? Yeah, so no one's asking about me on Reddit. How do I show up? And the answer is I would probably just not spend time on Reddit, honestly. Reddit is hard, especially when people are not talking about you. I shared that example where I got banned from the subreddit for saying that I worked at Graphite, an SEO agency, and they said you're banned for life. Don't talk about your stupid startup that no one's interested in. So I would just not use Reddit if no one's talking about you. I would generally just focus on Reddit threads where people are specifically asking about you. Now, you could still, if you really wanted to win on Reddit, what could you do? I would just be a real user of Reddit and try to engage on threads, but don't talk about your company. Build a bunch of karma, maybe make a subreddit and create content. If I wanted to grow Graphite, I could go make a subreddit about answer engine optimization and do a bunch of posts and not really promote myself, but do posts about answer engine optimization. And then I might get some wins. I think it's probably not worth the effort, honestly. I think the main effort is to engage in threads asking about you, and then to boost those threads, as the good ones, with Reddit ads, but not to try to promote your product in threads not talking about you. Okay, so VJ, how can a vendor remedy their... Okay, yeah, so I already answered that one. Let me see here. How does AI search work for pages like Substack? Okay. I'm starting an SEO agency to help B2B companies. What are best practices when starting with no customers beforehand? Yeah, this is a good example. So seems like there's a lot of demand for answer engine optimization. I want to get into it and I want to get clients, and I've never done this before. So how do I do this? I would a couple of ideas. Idea one is I would do a teardown of a company, like a famous company. Like if I were to do answer engine optimization for Rippling, here's my strategy. Basically, create some free thought leadership and try to post this on social. And you might even get the person working at Rippling to read that and to ping you. But if not, you could at least create an artifact that demonstrates that you're able to, create some value, and try to have that do well on social media. Number one. Number two is you really need case studies. And how do you get a case study when you can't close a deal and you have no case studies? Is to do free work. So when I was starting as a consultant, I would just do free consulting for people and give them free value. And they said, thank you so much. And sometimes they would launch it. And then I would get, a case study where I actually did something. I didn't close the deal. I just gave them free information. They would launch it. It actually had an impact. Like I did several things where I would do mobile app download interstitials for free and design them. And it was really successful. Like I did one for SeatGeek where I gave them a free design for mobile app installs, and it was impactful. And then I could show that to somebody else and say, look, this happened. And then I can get a deal that way. So that's how you can get started, which is to do free work. Okay. Somebody asked, a lot of tools claim to have prompt volume data. Is this all proprietary data? To my knowledge, none of the major LLMs share prompt volume data. Yeah, so I've spoken to several AEO tool companies about this, and there is first-party real prompt volume data, and you can get that from browser extensions or ISPs or like smaller LLM companies, like ChatGPT would never sell their prompt data, but some of the smaller companies will, and then you can get it from Chrome extensions. So that's where the panel data is coming from. However, it's really noisy. Like I haven't spoken to a single. I've spoken to multiple AEO tool companies who have purchased the prompt volume and say we won't use it because it's so bad. And again, the tail is enormous. So even if it was good, the tail is so large that how can you sort your way through all of that? So that's why I think search data is way better. It's not one-to-one with prompt volume data, but it's pretty good. So I would rather use search data to than panel data. Okay, so Substack question. Let me get the Substack question. How does AI search work for pages like Substack? Does the info in there rank, or does it have to be a website or a blog? I think the general question is, do different CMSs matter? Like, is Medium better than Substack, better than whatever else? I don't think it matters at all. I have not personally done research into Substack in relation to this, but I don't think that there's any difference at all in the CMS. What matters is like, are you, do you have the right subtopics? Is it linked to properly? Do you have enough domain authority on your Substack? Like Lenny has a Substack. I have other friends with Substacks, so it shouldn't matter at all. Okay, next question. Okay. Okay. Grand Simmons, there's loads of panel data. Okay, what am I thought? Oh yeah. So Reddit ads, Reddit ads are great. So Reddit ads are like one of the least, most valuable under optimized things. You want ads when it's a thread that's about you in a positive light. So you wouldn't want the thread where Lululemon's pants, they're pilling. That would be bad. But if it's a good thread saying positive things about you, then they're very effective. So I definitely recommend Reddit ads. We're working on Reddit ads as well. Okay, so we want to rank in GEO for users for Jacuzzi, but we can't use Jacuzzi, the brand name. What's the best approach? I'm not sure. I will pass on that one. You mentioned using new content or styles of content to separate your information from the rest. How do you stop from the information being seen as BS? Yeah. So I talked about FAQs. I think this is talking about FAQs. Talked about FAQs. So how do you structure this, and how do you have it be optimized? And it doesn't matter. Just have the content exist in any format. So here, like, this is fine. This is not a special FAQ that's structured as a schema thing. It's just, cover the subject. Also here, how does this rank? It ranks because you covered it. It doesn't need to be a special structure. It doesn't need to be verbatim question. You just need to cover and answer the question. Okay. Let me go to the next question. I think my document does not have any more questions, but I can go to questions in the chat. So if we want to rank for YouTube videos and AI search, do you suggest using keyword search to pertinent Google search keywords or prompt suggested tools like Searchable? Well, given that this is a Searchable event, I guess I should recommend using Searchable. I actually don't know. I usually just use Google keyword search, but I haven't actually used YouTube specific tools, so I don't have an opinion on whether or not those are net value add. Okay, so what is the best way to find quality keywords our consumers are actually using? Because sometimes if we search our industry keywords, we end up getting competitors' content and going in circles. Yeah, I mean, usually when I'm starting from scratch, I just try to find a competitor I would try to find a product competitor and an audience competitor. So let me take an example of email marketing tools. So I would just do something like this, where email marketing tools, who's showing up, and I see MailChimp showing up. And then I take MailChimp and then I find their top keywords. So I would go here to top pages. Note that I'm not going into keywords, I'm going into top pages. And then I would see what are their top landing pages. So you'll see email marketing campaigns, marketing digital, drop shipping, SMS marketing. So I basically go through all their top pages and pick the ones that are relevant. Then I might go into organic competitors, and then find other competitors and then get their keywords. There's this competitor gap analysis as well. So I can do the overlay of me versus the other competitor and find things that I haven't covered yet. So usually when I'm starting from scratch, I try to just back my way into a series of Venn diagrams of competitors to get this stuff, to get keywords. Then I take those keywords and put them in ChatGPT and say, make these keywords into prompts, like I shared before. Okay. Morgan asked, is it better to focus on SEO, GEO globally for an enterprise company, or start small with the US and win that first? It depends. Short answer is it depends, but focus on the United States. That's the short answer, usually. Long answer, yeah, it would depend on where your business is, but I could say for our clients, it's always the United States first. And when you do US, usually you get UK, Australia, and Canada for free. So you're targeting all of those. And then once you're done saturating that enormous market, then go into other languages. Usually it's French, German, Spanish that you would do next. But I would always start with the US and then UK, Canada, Australia, and then everything else. In general, obviously it depends on if they're, your business. Okay, so how do you ensure you get net new content if your brand doesn't have any proprietary data or internal experts? The short answer is don't worry about it. Just do the standard strategy. So if you just do the standard strategy where you're rewriting everyone else's content, it actually works pretty well. That's fine. That's what most people do. If you happen to have proprietary data, great. I would just start with the copy everyone else's content and find the pages that are working the best, and then go spend the time to get special extra data and quotes on the ones that are already working, so that you're only spending the extra resources on ones that you know are going to work. But if you don't have that at all, just copy everyone else's content, use a SEO writing tool, and just copy everyone else's content, and that's fine. That'll work. Not that I would want to read that article, but if you okay, how
Ethan,
can AI? Oh yeah,
you
good.
good to answer just one or two more questions, and then I'll take over.
Great.
Cool.
Let's do it. Oh, and I'll pick the questions. Yeah. Okay. Great. Cool. There's a lot of questions, but that's great. Okay, so recommendations regarding LLMs.txt. Yeah, this is interesting. So LLMs.txt is not real. My recommendation is to ignore it. That's my short answer. Here's my longer answer, which is that because this is a new category, there's mystery about what works, and things that don't work will get talked about, and it's important to do experiments like I described before. LLMs.txt, no one uses it. All the AI, Google said no one uses it. I work with AI companies. They said that they don't use it, so it's not real. However, the intention or the goal of the LLMs.txt is have pages that can rank in AI that are structured properly. So how do you do that? You really don't need to do anything at all. You need to not poorly implement your website. So here, this is fine. All of this works for free. None of this is specially structured for AI. This also works. All of this is fine. The thing that you don't want to do is have a weird, convoluted JavaScript, asynchronous loading, or sorry, progressive loading thing. Like, don't have some weird JavaScript web app that is hard to parse. Other than that, you don't need to do anything to structure your content for AI. It'll all work. If it works for search, it'll work for AI. Okay. Yeah. So what do I mean by poorly implement things? Honestly, no one needs to worry about this unless you're an engineer doing some funky JavaScript. Everything should be fine. Wix is fine. Squarespace, Webflow, like all that's fine. You would need to go out of your way to have some weird dynamic web app to need to have a special LLMs.txt file. A short way to know is if your page renders server side, everything's fine. You don't need to worry about it.
Thank you very much, Ethan. That was awesome. Thank
Great.
you very much.
Thank you.
Please, everyone, you can keep up to date with Ethan on LinkedIn. Amazing. I'm reading his stuff all the time. Great guy. Thank you very much for speaking for us, and thank you very much for all of your wisdom.
Thank you. I'll drop my LinkedIn in the chat.
Yeah.
This is where I post most of my stuff, so please follow me.
Awesome. Take it easy, dude. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, I hope, let me just put myself on. I hope everyone that today so far has been incredibly useful. I hope that you have learned a lot so far. We've got a lot more that we're going to cover in terms of questions, and hopefully we're able to really give you as much value as possible. I'm a big believer in the fact that there is a lot of choice in marketing, and I've been doing it for a long time. And so you always want to look at multiple different angles to get information from, which is why we will always try on our events to bring brands to the forefront, people who are doing it day to day inside their company, and then also people from agencies who will have unique perspectives, they will have tools, they will have methods that they use, and there will be so many differing opinions within search and within, you know, AI search now. And like I say, because I have done this for so long, I have heard so many different viewpoints and things. And the most important thing to bear in mind is that experimentation is the key. Trying lots of things is the key. Because obviously, from our perspective, we're just trying to arm you with the information that you need and give you the guidance as to how you can improve your search every single day. And so I'm going to take as many questions as I possibly can on search, on building your businesses, on really taking this opportunity and this moment in time and driving yourself forwards. You can take it from me, honestly, but I've probably spoken to maybe 300 companies in person, maybe 1,000 companies over the last 90 days since we launched Searchable. And you can see that there is a combination of fear and confusion because it is such a new thing that is changing the very way that we market. And so I think I think that we as a company, Searchable, we are going to focus very heavily on just trying to share as much information with you as possible. We're going to try and put on events. And very importantly, before I move on to my questions, and feel free to ask me anything, as a reminder, someone in the chat just asked about my new baby, which, yes, I had a child very recently, launching a startup and having, well, my wife obviously had the child, but having a kid at the same time, quite a challenging thing. That being said, what an amazing period to be alive. So before I go into my Q&A, I want to tell you a little bit more strategically about the cohort education programs that we're offering to our customers. So there are a lot of tools out there that do prompt tracking. We are very much not trying to be that. We are trying to be an agentic tool to actually help you implement your search, to tell you the opportunities. So our tool works differently to the rest of the tools. We take in all the information, we compile all the information from your site, your content, and your competitors, and we pull together an incredibly rich data set that you can analyze and look through and query and talk to, and you can ask for the answers from our tool and it will give it to you. But on top of that, we've just released opportunities and insights and actions. And so you are able to then get like effectively the searchable trained brain on top of your data to tell you what steps that you can make next. And so alongside that, for our customers, we are releasing a 6-week hands-on program to master AI search. So it's for agencies and established businesses. And we are going to teach you the activities, the opportunities, the frameworks to think about and to implement in search. Like I say, there's going to be a million different opinions as to how this stuff works. But the reality is you want to be doing the experimentation hands-on yourself. And so we are going to teach you over 6 weeks with 7 live sessions, multiple Q&As, and then clinics throughout the week where you get to work with a specialist AI implementer and executor. And in a group of like 10 to 1, for example, they will work with you through your challenges and actually implement and execute for you. And so you will get to see the the incredible speed that you're able to move at in this space, which I think is the thing that all marketers should be taking away from this, is that, Facebook ads originally, when I worked with them, were this remarkable opportunity because they were new, which meant they were cheap and you could get crazy views. When I first started posting on LinkedIn, it wasn't saturated. You could grow like bananas overnight. And so it's important that all of you take away from this that I just want you to take action. I want you to start optimizing, because the benefit on your business is going to be so significant. And so, like I say, for Searchable customers, we have a 6-week cohort that's starting very soon, which I'm sure that the team will share the details in the chat for everyone to look at. And what you will cover as part of that cohort is how to build out a proper AI visibility report. Now, the problem with all the tools, and most of the ones that Ethan mentioned, for example, is that they are effectively giving you a very, what I think is like non-strategic view of what you should be tracking. And so with us, as Ethan said, keywords is a very, very good way to start. So what we use instead is we use your GSC data to pull together and then create an incredibly rich prompt set that both covers brand and non-brand, and then tells you what else you should be tracking and should be going after, which means that our tool is directionally trying to push you towards generating revenue. Like I say, I've been in search longer than most people have. And I think that people talk a lot about visibility and keywords and prompts and stuff. But at the end of the day, for the business, and a business case is about driving revenue. And so that is our goal. Over the next 6 weeks within our program, we have the best experts in the world. We are going to teach you how to drive more revenue to your business. And as I said at the start, the program is free for any Searchable customer. And so if you're a Searchable customer, I cannot wait to work with you. I am totally obsessed with AI search right now. And there are a million opinions, a million tools. And so my view is just, I want to show you how it is done practically and get you to try our tool, obviously, because at the end of the day, we are the newest entrant to the space, but we're definitely growing the fastest. And so what a time to be around. The date that the cohort starts is February 3rd. So make sure that you are either signed up, or if you're an existing customer, you are applying for the cohort. Right. I'm going to take as many questions as I possibly can. I'm going to try and give you any, and you can ask me really strategic questions about like how to beat competitors, because I think that I've run so many of my own brands that aren't agencies. My perspective is both from the agency lens and the brand lens. And so I've talked in rooms for years about how we beat our number one competitor, how we chip away at the biggest person in the sector, how we can maintain our dominance. All these different things are effectively different strategies. And so let's get into it. Cool. Someone said, this has been great. I'm curious how you will share with us how to sell this to potential clients. Are there some good questions? Well, to be honest with you, our view is to try and teach you that AI search is very possible for your business, that you can optimize it. We probably won't provide guidance as to how to sell our tool to other people. I hope that the results, like our churn rate is the lowest I've literally ever seen. And so my hope is I just want people to try the tool, and as quickly as they try it, they will be able to demo it to their customers. And we have literally dozens of agencies now that are leaving other tools to join us, which has been a really great experience, because at the end of the day, we just want to help agencies deliver a better service to their customers. How do I see paid advertising within ChatGPT changing? It's going to be another crazy experience within marketing, which is at some point ads will be added to all conversational instances of AI. And I suspect the thing to bear in mind is, if you've worked in digital marketing for a while, you will know that your ads perform better if your organic is performing better and if your site is relevant to the ads that you're running. And so at the end of the day, your ads are part of the conversion funnel. And so, of course, ads are going to come to conversational AI. Of course they will. That's like number one best revenue stream ever that Google has dominated with. And so, of course, they will. But you should be thinking it takes a customer 5 to 7 times to recognize a brand or recognize an individual. And so what you should be thinking is, alongside running ads, which typically is a relatively expensive way of driving customers, you should be focusing on the greenfield opportunity ahead of you, which is creating amazing customers, like amazing content for your customers, and trying to rank organically in those positions. So when you add paid on top of that, it is additive and it is benefiting and it works together, as opposed to if you're not ranking well from an organic perspective and you're running loads of ads, you will perform worse. Okay, so someone says, I might be jumping the gun here, but I've tested 16 AI search tools, and I'm not confident in the reporting so far. I don't feel confident selling in. Thoughts on this and the best way to track AI search impact back to commercial goals? I think there's a variety of different ways to think about it. I mean, depending on which part of the journey you are in as a business. So if you're new to AI search and you are not an established company, then you don't have a huge amount to compare it to. And so I would say at that point, you should be trying to query your customers as to the things that they are searching for, which you can use our tool for, you can use Google for, you can use loads of different things to find out what your customers are interested in. And then you can use a tool like ours in Sources, where in Sources, you're able to look at which pieces of content from your competitors are driving the answers in search. And I think that's probably the most important thing, is that if I'm able to decode, and our tool can tell you which are doing it for you, so you don't have to do the data analysis yourself necessarily. But if I can decode which articles my competitors have that the AI is getting their answers from, then that is my roadmap. I start to be able to think, okay, well, I need to create an incredible piece of content on this, this, and this. Let's see. Okay, so how reliable are AI visibility tools in general? Do I still need to check prompts myself to see which brands show up? I mean, you should definitely always be doing the work yourself. And I would never trust like any tool to give you 100% of the answer. That's just not how you should think about doing marketing in general. The one thing I would say is that a lot of the companies are overstating their prompt volumes enormously, and so it's not a game that we're going to play. Like, I don't think that prompt tracking is the nuance here. I don't think prompt tracking is like, it's obviously something we provide, but the companies that are staking their whole business on prompt tracking and therefore inflating the values, I think is a bit bizarre. Whereas I think the thing that you should be thinking about is using search queries as like a basis for the existing consumer search demand within a space, and then looking at how that plays out in driving AI search once you are ranking well and performing well for certain prompts. Okay, this is a fun question. What's the best starting point for a resource deficient micro business to start brand visibility journey in AI? So you're just talking about a startup with no money, which is at the beginning almost every single startup. I mean, it's an amazing time to be a startup with no money because of the advent of AI search. So as I said a few times on this call, let's say I was like a new law firm, for example, and every single time I went onto ChatGPT and sought law services in London, for example, I kept getting 4 or 5 different brands coming up in those answers. I would want to know which content on my competitors' sites that keep coming up is the content that the AI is drawing its answer from. Because I will work incredibly hard to go and create really high quality content that can compete with that content. And that is how small brands are consistently able to beat big brands. And this is it. This is a moment in time where marketers should be thinking, this gap will close where small brands can move faster than bigger brands. So that's how I would do it. And you can do that very easily just using the sources information on our site. You can look at your core competitors, which content is driving their outcomes, and as a result, what content you then should be making. Okay, so someone says for mid-sized businesses without massive authority, what is the fastest lever to increase AI visibility over the next 90 days? It's a good question. I think that you can approach that from a variety of different angles. So like anyone who's worked in SEO long enough will know that SEO isn't just content. they'll know it's not just optimization, and they'll know it's not just on site. And so what do I mean by that? I mean that you need to ensure that your site is technically in a position that it is, and I like to always use the analogy of like aerodynamic. It can be easily read and crawled by the AI companies. And so, for example, on our site, we will tell you what needs to be improved from a technical standpoint on your site to enable it to be crawled and to be more aerodynamic for the crawlers. The second point would be content, which I covered in quite a lot of detail on that last question, which is effectively creating high quality content to answer the prompts that your audience are looking for. And then the last point, which is really, really important, is which other sites with decent or high domain authority and high trust signals are linking back to and talking about your brand and your product and your service. And so you will see, I shared one on my LinkedIn yesterday, but you will see that the ChatGPT and so forth, the sources that they're pulling from are directly like third-party forum-based social sites. And so what does that tell you? Or highly trusted educational news sites. So what does that tell you? It tells you that this is kind of an expansion or an evolving of link building, digital PR. Like you need to be producing high quality content that is good enough that other third-party sites want to talk about that content. And so at the end of the day, I want to take a step back from search quickly, because this is the advice that business owners actually need, and all businesses actually need this advice generally, which is you need to create for your business content and intellectual property and frameworks that is good enough that other sites want to use your content to explain a problem. And so my hope, for example, is we are releasing our own proprietary AI visibility report so that people can see how the market is panning out. And we're going to be completely objective. There's nothing in it for us other than showing like where companies are doing well, how they're doing well, and so forth. But my hope with that piece of information, right, is that other news sites will reference our piece of information when they write an article. And that, therefore, I have created a bit of intellectual property, a really high quality piece of content. And because of that, those other sites will mention us and cite back to us. And so you have to think from your perspective as a business, what is the content we can create that will get us mentioned? And then, a step further than that might be, what is the outreach strategy we have to the news, to the press? What is the link building strategy we have for forum websites and so forth? So don't think of AI search as this like incredibly, tiny thing that is like prompt tracking or whatever. AI search is an extension, in my opinion, just of SEO, what we've been doing forever. And so you have to attack it from its different elements, which is content, technical, and outreach. And so you have on-site content, off-site content. And this, again, is covered really nicely with our tool will show you the opportunities that your business has and your brand has on-site. So what you can improve with your content, your technical, and so forth, how you can expand your prompts based on your GSC data or expand your prompts based on your competitors. And then, like, what is your opportunity offsite? Like, what are the sites and websites and so forth that you should be pursuing to get links back from? And so we're going at this as a point of view of like trying to help the workflow as opposed to just doing prompts. Someone says, Chris, I'm a searchable user. How important is it to create content from a searchable prompt about our own brand? Well, this is a great broader question about brand versus non-brand. And it's where, like, for example, the tools that Ethan mentioned, like I've used those all. The reason I started Searchable is I've used all those tools. And I think that a lot of people have a really poor distinction between branded prompts and non-branded prompts. And so we're making it very distinct between the two things, which is if I just track 50 prompts, for example, and 25% of them are branded and 25% of them aren't branded, I'm going to do incredibly well because I perform quite well for my brand, which is a really positive way of looking at yourself. Like I said at the start, it's like marking your own homework, like patting yourself on the back. So my point and my takeaway here is that to set up your business properly, to perform in AI search, you need to have a well-rounded, really strategic set of prompts that you are tracking. And you should base that on your search data previously, on how your competitors are performing, and then areas you want to expand into. And once you're tracking all of that, then tools like ours will say to you, you should go and create content about X, Y, and Z. You should reach out to these sites to get cited by X, Y, and Z. And so the creating content off the back of a prompt is a smart idea, but I would think of it more like prompt topics, prompt universes, and so forth, because the article shouldn't just answer one prompt. The article should answer a conversational nature of a topic. And then that article is able to be cited multiple times. And so very differently to all the tools that were mentioned before and all the other tools that I've used, right, is that they are effectively analytics tools. Whereas if you go into ours, you actually have an agent in there that's trained on SEO and AEO from the best information in the world. It then has access to your data perfectly. And so you can strategize live with your agent, which for me as a lifetime marketer is quite literally the most remarkable experience ever, where you're able to say, go and find me all these links from my competitors. It will pull out the data. How do you think I should go about improving my site, improving my traffic? It will come back with an answer. And so you can strategize there, and then you can put that into your task list and execute it. And so over time, what you want to be doing as a business and as a brand is tracking the individual activities and improvements that you make on the site, and then seeing the benefit of those actions and activities over time. And that is how you start to work out which parts of what you're hearing out there in the world about search are working or not. Because for me, having done search for my own big websites or done search for thousands of different brands over the years, I know that the whole game is about experimentation. So when we built our agent in our tool, it was like, okay, how do we build an agent that gives you access to all this data? And then you can have like a co-pilot while you're doing your optimizations. You can have someone to ask a question to. And so it's just a really unique experience for people to try out. Someone says, how can we spy on competitors from an AI perspective? Well, I don't know which other tools would do this, so I can only really talk to our tool, but you can look at where your competitors are getting mentioned, where your competitors are getting cited, what the sources are that your competitors are using. And so you can do all of that spying here, and you can just ask the agent to do the spying for you, and it will just come back with all the answers that you need. Is Searchable good for big brands or small brands? I mean, to be honest with you, all businesses right now have this opportunity ahead of them. And so you can use it to create the strategy, whether you're small or big. The strategy will be very different. For example, Dan works for Zapier, and their strategy might be very much about how do we get our AI search performance to be as good as our traditional search performance. That might have been their original exam question. It might have been more defensive for them than it was offensive. However, as you see, what they've done is that by leaning into AI search, they've actually seen almost the opposite. They've actually land grabbed rather than just defended. Whereas for small businesses, you're trying to chip away and establish yourself in search. You're trying to establish yourself and communicate to the crawlers what your business actually stands for. And so it's very important that you ensure that your schema, your content is deliberately and quite concisely showing these crawlers what your business actually is, what it stands for, and so forth. Okay, so someone says, in my experience, how long does it actually take for GEO to show results? Or does it depend on if you already have a good SEO foundation? Well, obviously, if you have a very good SEO foundation, you have a big site that has loads of content that performs really well in search, that is quite clearly what it is. Like if you're a dentist and you've been talking about dentistry for years, then Google knows what you are, and so does the AI chat. So for you probably can make quite quick improvements. But in the same way, a new brand with no content has no traffic. And so by creating high quality content around the prompts that your customers might be searching for, you too can drive quick and actionable results, certainly faster than any other marketing channel I know of right now. And so I think that I've seen in our first cohort that we did, we trained, I think, just over 50 established businesses how to do AI search, anything from like blue chip companies through to smaller companies. And we saw people having, as long as they get their visibility right on day one and track the right things, we had some people have a 30% increase in their visibility across their tracked prompts, which was very significant. And so bigger businesses probably saw less of a percentage growth, but still a really positive outcome for their businesses. Okay, so Danny says, as someone with Danny from Huddle, what's up? As a founder with limited search experience, what would you advise to get my hands dirty? So I in many ways, I actually built my tool for founders and for marketeers so that it helps them with strategy, analytics, and implementation. The problem with all the prompt tracking tools, if I'm honest, is that most of them are just analytics. And then you, if you're not a really deep search person, are having to work through all these like incredibly complex tables and graphs and diagrams, which you don't know what they mean. And so I've built our tool to be have an agent first and foremost, but also have something that gives you the opportunities and the actions that you need to take. And so for you, I would say get your hands dirty by starting to make some of the optimizations, starting to improve some of your content. The tool will tell you which content to improve, to refresh, to update. It will tell you what content to make from scratch. If you give it your competitors, Danny, it will tell you other competitors that you might need to track who might not be direct, but certainly could be competing for the same answer in the same ChatGPT answer. So I would say it's time to get your hands dirty now, today. And within, agency space, I think that agencies typically are quite bad at optimizing themselves, optimizing their own businesses and brands. And that's why like my agency back in the day did so well, is that we were called Verb Brands and we ranked for every single luxury term with regards to digital. So luxury digital marketing, we came up first. All these incredibly niche terms, they had high intent. And so we got loads of our business from search. I'm going to take a handful more questions, folks. Hit me with something hard. Okay, so someone says, which strategy should I approach as a B2B SaaS company trying to get mentioned in AI? I think, to be honest with you, B2B SaaS is a great opportunity for long form, really informative educational content. And in many ways, like you have, obviously, depending what the B2B SaaS is, there is a huge opportunity ahead of you, which is answering all the queries that customers might have about your industry, about your product, and about the outcomes. That list will be enormous. And you can brainstorm the list of content you should create with our agent. It will give you a very good content plan that you can work towards. And then your follow-up question is, would Searchable have a feature where startups can tap into fractional? No, so we're not an agency and we don't do services. There are lots of agencies out there. We have dozens on our platform. We will always have agencies speaking on our events because it's always good to get that perspective from an agency viewpoint. But we aren't a service provider. And so the reason we do the cohorts is we just try and teach people how AI search works objectively. Like we're not trying to sell you our services, which is always the thing that I think is like, if you listen to one expert about PPC or another expert about PPC, you get a slightly different variance in answer. And I think that's useful for marketing, for experimentation. But like our cohorts, like there's no skin in the game. If you're a customer, we're just going to teach you how the product works. Okay, so someone says, Stephen says, good question. How do you quantify the value of AEO for your clients and how do you measure the value? It seems that AEO tools direct teams to do more SEO work. So why do I need an AEO solution? It's a great question. And I think that the people who talk about AEO so specifically are clever in a sense because that is a hot topic, right? That is like a really big topic on social media to grow your followers and all the rest of it. But the more sort of grounded and realistic view is that this is an evolution of what we've been doing for 15 years. The tactics have changed slightly, the crawlers have changed slightly, and therefore your tactics and your methodology has to shift minutely. But if you've been doing good SEO for years, you're going to benefit enormously from the next part of AI search. So just before I take the last few questions, just to mention, we've received about 75 applications into the cohort on this session alone. And so I don't know if that makes us full. I should be better organized than that, but that probably means we're close to full. So if you want to join, once we kick off, you can't join after we kick off. We're not going to do another one till mid-year, so it's a good time to get involved. To qualify, you have to be a professional, have to have a pro account with Searchable. So like I say, it's not a free product in the sense of we don't do it for free, we do it for our customers. And so if you want to do it, you have to be a pro customer. You can start Searchable with a free trial. So you get 14 days to try the tool. And my favorite thing about the free trial is that we give out a free trial to people so that when they're using other tools that don't have like agentic actions and opportunities, they get to use ours. And within a few days, they're like, okay, this is the tool I want to use. Because prompt tracking alone is not enough to get you there nowadays. Cool. I will take a handful more questions and then we will wrap this afternoon. I just want to say to anyone who's on the call, thank you very much for joining. Really appreciate you tuning in. I want to say thanks to the speakers. It's great that they've joined as well. So how do we value AEO traffic? Well, the most obvious thing to look at from a baseline is where, like, if you can track very easily in our tool and lots of other tools where you're getting your AI traffic from. So, for example, you can see your ChatGPT traffic, Perplexity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And therefore, you can work out whether what you're doing is directly passing through to your site. You can track it in mentions, in citations, and sources. So there's a variety of different ways you can do it. And I think, interestingly, what's going to happen next is obviously agentic shopping. And so that is the ability for customers to make their purchases within all of these different chat platforms. And that is like happening and will happen more. And the adoption rate of these tools has been so significant that you can imagine we're having this conversation in a year's time and a good percentage of purchases are going directly through the conversational chat, right? And so I would say that if I was a brand that sells online right now, this is your moment, because in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, if you don't optimize towards getting mentioned in the conversation, you will cease to exist in your consumer mind. And I just want to like double click on that for a second. If a customer has 7 conversations and you don't come up 7 times about something, then quite quickly you start to lose mind share of your customers. And that's how brands rise and fall over time. And so just as a recap, I'm going to lead the cohort myself and do the training myself. Like I say, I've been doing it for a very long time. And so I have a pretty objective view of how this stuff works. Thank you to everyone who's tuning in. I've really appreciated you joining. We will send out the recording. Sorry about the name issue. Is Searchable better than other tools? Well, it's a good question because, like, obviously I'm going to promote what I do. I think a lot of the tools on the list shared earlier are very lightweight, if I'm honest. And Searchable launched late after I'd used all the other tools. And I run and have run other big businesses before. And so the big difference fundamentally is the other tools are doing prompt tracking and they think that prompt tracking is the answer to AI search. Whereas, like, of course, having good analytics is useful. That's how I look at that equation. Whereas what we're building is like agentic workflows and how to develop your strategy. And so let's say like I'm on another tool, I just get my analytics. Whereas on my tool, I have my analytics, obviously. I'm pushed to improve my targeting. And then I can go back and forth with the tool about how to improve my search and how to improve my AI search. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the lovely comments. I hope it was useful. Can't wait to work with those that are doing the cohort. I will see you next time. Take it easy. Peace.